Good morning, America. Welcome to RSBN's Live Desk. I'm Robert McNeely, and now a high noon, good afternoon to the East Coast as we await President Trump to make a special announcement at 2 o'clock this afternoon. We saw the Panicans over the weekend. We hope you had a great Labor Day weekend. Many of them discussing a lot of conspiracy theories. I think you find more of those way on the left than you could ever have on the right, because you find that the things that have been stated, researched, looked at, it's funny how those conspiracy theories become true. But lots of news this weekend, and sadly, the deadly shootings taking place in Chicago, Illinois. And once again, the legacy media will not really highlight what has been a trend over years and years over these big holiday weekends where the weather is still very nice in the city, but 8 dead, 57 wounded in the latest count, and it's an absolute tragedy. President Trump discussing this on Truth Social and laying out how the incompetence of Governor J.B. Pritzker and also of Mayor Brandon Johnson absolutely terrible for the residents of the great city of Chicago. Also with other tragedies, our prayers to the country of Afghanistan. A count now of 140,000 people losing their lives in earthquakes that took place over the weekend. Also, a very bad car accident for America's mayor, Rudy Giuliani, up in Manchester, New Hampshire. Our thoughts and prayers with the great mayor of New York City. And he will be receiving the Presidential Medal of Freedom. President Trump stating that on Truth Social and declaring that over the weekend, someone, I think, long overdue for the award and someone who has really suffered at the hands of the deep state and simply trying to get the truth out there and to make sure that we have free and fair elections. And as you see there on Truth Social, as President of the United States of America, I am pleased to announce that Rudy Giuliani, the greatest mayor in the history of New York City and an equally great American patriot, will receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom, our country's highest civilian honor. And details as to time and place to follow. And thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. So congratulations to the great Rudy Giuliani. We hope and pray for a very quick and steady recovery. Never a nice situation or a pleasant situation to be in, and reports that it's a pretty serious back break. So our thoughts and prayers with the great mayor. But as you see that with the violence in Chicago, the lack of violence now in Washington, D.C., with President Trump using the home rule and National Guard in order to make the federal city great again. We'll see how this all moves forward. So perhaps this afternoon we'll be detailing some of that information and how he further plans to perhaps use the federal authorities and also National Guard in those cities like Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, among many others that have seen such a spike in crime since the Summer of Love and the COVID pandemic. And President Trump now stating as well that he is looking forward to a revision of the COVID vaccines and what Operation Warp Speed once did to rapidly get this out to people throughout the country and to make that available. So there is that happening, and him stating that on Truth Social as well when it comes to the vaccine research, Operation Warp Speed, and just simply reviewing the efficacy of everything happening there. It is very important that the drug companies justify the success of their various COVID drugs, and many people think they are a miracle that saved millions of lives. Others disagree. Now, with the CDC being ripped apart over this question, I want the answer, and I want it now. And I have been shown information from Pfizer and others that is extraordinary, but they have never seemed to show those results to the public. And why not? They got off to the next hunt and let everyone rip themselves apart, including Bobby Kennedy Jr. and the CDC, trying to figure out the success of the failure of the drug companies' COVID work. And they show me great numbers and results, but they don't seem to be showing them to many others. And I want them to show them now to the CDC and to the public and clear up this mess one way or the other. I hope Operation Warp Speed was as brilliant as many say it was. If not, we all want to know about it and why. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. And we know that this administration focused very heavily, especially with those military members who lost their jobs in the process of those mandates. Yours truly suffered at the hands of a mandate at one point. And it's something that should not happen to people to choose their own bodily autonomy over whether or not they should have the efficacy of a so-called drug, or if it does not have that efficacy. It should be a private concern with their doctor. So I was very proud to receive the organization of Vaccine Choice endorsing my campaign last 2024, last year, for state representative in Georgia, because I believe, as I think many common sense Americans believe, President Trump believes, that you should have that choice, whether or not you believe you should take it if it's for your own health benefits. It's a very moderate and normal position. We saw what's happened over the last 4 years with the pressure and the campaigns against those who would not fall for propaganda. Or simply, if their doctor said do not do this, then they would ideally have that option, but not everyone did, regardless of their job backgrounds, whether private or public. And we saw with our military, so many of them gutted from their positions without back pay, and President Trump bringing them back to make the military great again. In a mission of Secretary of State Marco Rubio to Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, if it does not serve America first, if it does not serve the meritocracy and the fighting readiness of this great country, then it's very simple. Why do it? So much happening over the course of this Labor Day weekend, as I hope you had some R&R with family and friends. And if you have not yet visited this great company, allfamilypharmacy.com, they're working overtime. And although it's the mark of the unofficial end of summer and the beginning of fall, it is the beginning of flu season. And now you can get great medications, once again, like ivermectin, antibiotics, and the antivirals, emergency medical kits, the maintenance meds, biohacking products now, as you saw last week on the show, even weight loss assistance using code RSBN10. That's RSBN10. Have the right meds on hand. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Flu season is here, and it's the best time to prepare for when you could potentially get sick during football season. That's why families across the country now turning to All Family Pharmacy, your go-to online family pharmacy, to have what's essential on hand. And again, it is 200 plus essential medications. It's ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, NAD+, methylene blue, these emergency medical kits, antibiotics, antivirals, as well as the biohacking products, as I mentioned there. This is the full lineup to help you stock your medicine cabinet. And then if you have those late fall foliage views in the upper Midwest, or even throughout New England, New Hampshire, or even Vermont, it's simple and fast and reliable to carry these great medications with you on your trip. So have the right meds on hand. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. And when you have your health in line, make sure that you go to Monetary Gold to check up on your wealth and preservation savings that can protect your assets. Get the Presidential Gold Guide now. It's complimentary, and we'll detail how it can help you save some of that hard-earned money. So call now. Don't delay. Call today. 800-476-7790. That's 800-476-7790. Ask how to eliminate your annual IRA fees for life. It's rsbnforthegold.com. Ask how you can eliminate that now, because Bank of America, they've put out the warning signals and the flares that the dollar is spiraling out of control, that it will ultimately fail. And we don't want that on hand, because what does it mean ultimately for your savings? I was listening to a great podcast over the weekend, and it was detailing the fallout from the mandates of those vaccines. Also, that the economy is not necessarily as strong as it should be, and paper money can go poof, right up into the air, just as Bank of America has warned. So it's great to get that gold and silver all in line. 5,000 plus years of human history. These precious commodities have stood the test of times, different political uproars and upheavals, and regardless of the kind of government you live under, is always a great nest egg to have. So monetary gold, the best in the business. Wealth, security, preservation. Again, call today. Don't delay. It's 800-476-7790. Ask how to eliminate that IRA fee with the experts at RSBNforthegold.com. RSBNforthegold.com. That gets me excited for what's on the horizon next year. The FIFA World Cup being hosted in Atlanta, Georgia, and throughout our beautiful country. President Trump meeting with the FIFA president recently in the Oval Office. We've seen that all underway. And, of course, the Olympics in 2028, Los Angeles, California, will have quite a country. It's a golden era right now, 200-plus days of President Trump back in office for the second term. But imagine it towards the end of that term and all that will be accomplished over the course of this tenure. We're right here with you at Right Side Broadcasting Network. And thank you to our sponsors for making all of that happen. As you see this lovely Tuesday, September 2nd, in our nation's capital, the White House and the Capitol building, two illustrious places to visit if you do have the chance. And we're right here in studio, still live in Studio B, as Studio A is being renovated. I think you'll like the changes and what's to come for the future of this great network, a network that was dedicated to the rallies. And hey, we still do that from time to time. You don't see as many this year, kind of the off season, unless you're in Virginia or New Jersey or your city council and school board races, which you should vote in, because even Opelika last week, our friendly neighborhood next door to the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, they had roughly 27% turnout. My goodness, your municipal elections are the things that most closely affect you. You should be involved in them. So make sure you do that if you have one right around the corner, either in October or November. And President Trump putting out, along with the White House, a number of great successes up through this Labor Day, a Labor Day that's been marked by the lowest gas prices in over 4 years, since July of 2021, when the auto pen was in the Oval Office. And if you have not caught a glimpse of this yet, we talk about it a lot on the show, but the MAGA Minute. It is a great way to recap just what's happened in the past week of the administration. Caroline Leavitt does an extraordinary job at it, the superstar, as President Trump puts it, the GOAT, the greatest of all time at that press secretary role, recently celebrating a birthday, but that did not stop her from sharing the facts and what's happening in your government, in the executive branch. It's the MAGA Minute from last week.
Welcome to the MAGA Minute. First, I want to address the horrific shooting that took place at the Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis, Minnesota. President Trump signed a proclamation immediately following the shooting, acknowledging the victims and their families and directing flags to be flown at half-staff. President Trump and the First Lady encouraged the entire nation to join us in praying for the victims and their families as they face unimaginable grief and loss. We will continue to provide further updates as they become available. Also this week at the White House, President Trump held a 3-hour and 17-minute-long cabinet meeting, setting a record for the longest televised event in presidential history. He also hosted the South Korean president in the Oval Office, as well as the Abbey Gate Gold Star families, after which he signed the first ever proclamation to commemorate the sacrifice of the 13 brave souls who lost their lives on that tragic day. President Trump also signed an executive order to protect Americans by ensuring federal policies and resources are not used to support cashless bail policies across the nation, which have been a complete and total disaster. And the president's crackdown on crime in Washington, D.C. is working. Total crime is down almost 20%. Violent crime is down 30%. Carjackings are down 67%. Homicides are down 40%. And robberies are down 40% right here in our nation's capital. The Dow Jones reached a record high, and the Congressional Budget Office, often partisan and left-wing, was forced to admit that tariffs will reduce our nation's deficit by $4 trillion. This Labor Day, gas prices are projected to be at their lowest in half a decade. And First Lady Melania Trump announced the Presidential Artificial Intelligence Challenge, inviting K-12 students and educators across our country to participate. Vice President Vance delivered remarks in La Crosse, Wisconsin, touting the administration's many historic accomplishments. And finally, amid pressure from President Trump, Cracker Barrel announced it would revert back to its OG logo. It's been a great week, and we wish you a very happy Labor Day. We'll see you for next week's MAGA Minute.
Many thanks to Caroline Levitt for that great report. Always nice when you're about to go on vacation or take some time off, as many of you did over Labor Day weekend by plane, train, and automobile in order to enjoy time with family and friends. So it's nice to have that recap to start off your week. Now, why does this all matter? China is unveiling a hypersonic missile. Beijing will unveil anti-ship missiles, including the hypersonic YJ-17, signaling China's drive to challenge the United States in its naval defenses, especially with the Pacific Fleet. So something to keep on watching as continued negotiations happen. We'll see what happens if President Trump ends up meeting with the Premier Xi Jinping at some point, because there's no question that China has been weakened on a global scale thanks to the use of tariffs, thanks to the use of the reshaping of global trade policies. But cut number 15, Mr. Director, no administration has worked harder at all, quite frankly, in order to make America great again. And they're at a breakneck pace, even compared to the first term. It's nice to have people surrounding President Trump, like you saw during last Tuesday's cabinet meeting, the longest in history, of those who at many times, at many ventures, were political rivals, whether it be in primaries and President Trump battling then Senator Marco Rubio, and they were at odds in 2016, but they came together to make America great again. How about Doug Collins, the VA, Kelly Loeffler as the small business administrator, their battles in the Republican primaries for Senate in Georgia during 2020. Heroic, great battles, in fact, peaceful and patriotic, but they all came together to make this country great again. Republicans, Democrats, and independents all around that table to serve this national populism, this economic common sense that we've seen transform all of Washington, D.C., and truly the world as a whole, with making America safe again, really being at the forefront coming into these fall months. And so if we have that cut number 15, Mr. Director, if that's available to play, no administration working harder than that of the Trump administration.
What the president is doing is changing 40 years of a failed bipartisan consensus in Washington, D.C. that has sold out American workers and destroyed the underlying economic strength of the United States of America.
They are just raking in the wins one after another, whether it's restructuring global trade and getting other countries to pay us, passing the One Big Beautiful Bill, and the massive tax incentives there for investing in America, the most aggressive deregulatory campaign in history, and an energy abundance agenda that's brought down gas prices and energy prices for ordinary families.
He has told companies around the world that America is open for business. This is more money coming into your community. This is your hometown where you grew up that has been shuttered because globalists have sold you out, reviving again. Factories where your neighbors are having good paying jobs, where more money is going back into your pockets. And every time you go to the store to purchase a product, you're no longer seeing made in China on the back. You are seeing made in America on the back. That's President Trump's vision.
The policies are working. Business investment is skyrocketing. Jobs are skyrocketing. Inflation is going down. It's exactly as we said.
They think that we could see a take-home increase of anywhere from $85,000 to almost $15,000 if you're a typical family with two kids.
Inflation is coming under control, and blue-collar wages are rising faster than they have risen in 60 years. That is a testament to great presidential leadership and the great American people.
The president is smashing open all the world's markets. Our ranchers, our fishermen, our farmers, our entrepreneurs and our businesses can finally sell into Europe. Yeah, all these countries.
It's the blue-collar boom. The Trump administration celebrating a massive growth in wages for working-class Americans.
This is what he was given a mandate to do. He is the president of the American worker.
Blue-collar wage growth, the only other time it's been this high, wait for it, was during President Trump's first term. No president has done that before.
And you see promises made, promises kept, and a great highlight reel of 200 plus days. We're only just beginning. Thank you to our sponsors, Kalshi.com/RSBN. A great way to trade and bet on all of those big questions in the United States of America, like who will win the Nobel Peace Prize, Oslo, Norway's highest honor. And it's looking like it should be President Trump, should it not, from ending the 12 days war between Iran and Israel, Cambodia to Thailand, to Pakistan and India. And you have all of these amazing people around the world of different backgrounds nominating him, whether it's Claudia Tenney in New York to Buddy Carter in Georgia, all the way to 70,000 Cambodian monks, Azerbaijan to Armenia, to the African continent, in the Congo and Rwanda, coming to peace terms after over 30 years of tribal bloody warfare. And now this president laser focused on Russia and Ukraine, perhaps the trickiest one out of the bunch, but promises made, promises kept, peace through strength, and with the renegotiation of trade deals, peace is coming throughout the world. So will Zelensky meet with Mr. Putin before January? You can ask those questions, make those trades and bets right there at Kalshi.com/RSBN. So again, the last month of the Fall Classic, right beforehand, the regular season of baseball. Will the Los Angeles Dodgers repeat that World Series championship just as the Florida Panthers did in the free Sunshine State with the Stanley Cup? So it's sports, it's culture, it's music, it's politics, and much more. Kalshi.com/RSBN. Trade on anything. Check out that QR code now. You can scan there and place those bets on this Tuesday, September 2nd. And while you're at it, it's getting into those cooler months. We still have this beautiful weather throughout the southeast happening. Temperatures cooling off just a bit, but that's a great time to get some Angel Paste Miracle Cream, the vitamin B infused original out of Spring, Texas, right off the Gulf of America. A great way to keep the skin glowing and the hands away from that dry, arid experience of the fall into the winter months. So angelpaste.com, a great place to go. They also have a vitamin C infused orange option, also non-GMO, no chemicals, and the natural mosquito spray and a natural facial spray. So experience the miracle today. Angelpaste.com. They are Christian owned. They are based, as I mentioned, in Spring, Texas, in the Houston Metroplex, just outside of the Gulf of America. They hire veterans. They're a great group. Angelpaste.com. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. As we're getting to the bottom of the hour, President Trump will make an announcement at 2 o'clock Eastern regarding a number of different topics, likely, including the Panicans, who are just simply making up things about his potential health and what might have happened over the weekend. And if anything were to be of truth regarding that, I'm sure this administration would get right to it, because President Trump, Vice President Vance, among the many members of the cabinet, very accessible, and especially much more accessible than the last administration, which must have been very difficult to work under those environments when an auto pen was in charge. And who exactly was that person? I'm sure we'll find out more in the weeks and months to come. But fortunately, there is a new dawn in America. And if your liberal friends or far-left globalist neighbors down the street or someone involved in your PTA, maybe a good video to show them just all of the success that's happening in this country. Cut number 4, Mr. Director, A New Dawn in America.
It's a new dawn in America. President Trump is delivering a golden age for American workers. Fair trade deals are fueling a resurgence in American industry. Wages for blue-collar workers are rising at the fastest rate in 6 decades. And the One Big Beautiful Bill is delivering historic tax cuts for working families. Happy Labor Day and welcome to the golden age of the American worker.
And Lori Chavez-DeRemer was really chided by far-right Republicans that she was too much involved with the Teamsters, too involved with unions in order to hold that role. But she's really shined as the Secretary of Labor to push this economic populism, this national economic security that was championed and has been pushed forward by great advisors like Peter Navarro, who took us through that history of excellent leaders in this country, from Henry Clay to Presidents Abraham Lincoln and William McKinley, and even the first Treasury Secretary himself, Alexander Hamilton. You might have heard of him. There's a great musical about his life and his legacy. They were all for tariffs. They were all for economic populism. You could call it protectionism, but it's truly fair trade. It's free trade because you're advocating your goods and access to your own market and making money off of that. And that's what we did really through the late 19th century until that pesky 1913 came around with the federal income tax. And we've seen the fallout from the practice of that. Even Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones of Georgia, who is running for governor of the Peach State, wants to completely eliminate that. They've made strides lowering those tax rates, but with places like the volunteer state of Tennessee and the free sunshine state of Florida, it definitely attracts those who want to be away from those income taxes, because those costly burdens just make it tougher for you at home to make those decisions on specific items. And you're getting that relief now at the grocery store, at the pump. And the panicans who were complaining all summer about how so-called inflation would really loom and doom over this administration have been proven wrong with the economic reports and the roughly $15 trillion of wealth being invested into the United States thanks to the tariffs. And President Trump talking about this on Truth Social, cut 8 there, that with all of this investment into the United States, and specifically the $15 trillion that's been brought in, it'll be invested into the country. It's a record. Much of this investment is because of tariffs. If a radical left court is allowed to terminate these tariffs, almost all of this investment and much more, we will be immediately canceled in many ways. We become the third world nation with no hope of greatness again. Time is of the essence. So something to watch there, because we know in South America, the Southern Hemisphere, what happened in Venezuela. I mean, through 1992, they were one of the wealthiest nations in the world. Their oil reserves and their exports. And communism befell a great culture, a great nation. So President Ronald Reagan was right. Freedom is only one generation away from extinction. So it must be fought for. It's not passed through the bloodstream. It has to be defended and passed on to each and every generation. At the bottom of the hour, it's 12:29 on the East Coast. It's 9:29 on the Golden Coast out west. Good afternoon and good morning, America. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Robert McNeely. You're watching Right Side Broadcasting Network's Live Desk. We'll take a quick commercial break for sponsors. Don't change that dial. You're with Right Side.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interviewed the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door. Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. We are awaiting President Trump to make an announcement in roughly 90 minutes from now. So thanks for sticking with us as we analyze all the day's news, everything that happened over the weekend. And we know it's a time where you might tune out and just get that much needed R&R. I was able to as well, finishing my fantasy football lineup come the fall. So get ready to hand over that trophy. I'm talking to a certain someone, a dear friend of mine. So we're looking forward to all of that as we enjoy this fall football season. I'm sure some big games this past weekend, whether it was Florida State beating Alabama. Wow, that was a big one. How about the home team here in Auburn taking down those Baylor Bears? We've got some extraordinary footage really over the weekend that you will enjoy coming up this week and in further episodes of The Voice of Reason. Just talking to some folks, a little man on the street, about last week's game and what they look towards this season and the optimism we have here in Aubie land. And then also, it was hard to watch for a bit, but the Miami Hurricanes, the convicts, took down my fellow Catholics, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, at a game that Governor Ron DeSantis was attending in the beautiful city of Miami, Florida. So always feel free to write back to RSBN Sports, feedback at rspn.tv. Tell us your thoughts on the first weekend and as we gear up now for the National Football League. Always fun to dive into American culture and the political head of state. You'll see him in roughly 88 minutes from now. Now, flu season is here. You know, it's the unofficial mark of summer or end of summer with Labor Day weekend. But this is the best time to stock up that medicine cabinet. All Family Pharmacy is the go-to for that. They are the online pharmacy watching out for you and yours. That's why families have turned to their life-saving medications, from ivermectin to NAD+, methylene blue, mebendazole. It's 200 essential medications. You see the list there of antibiotics to antivirals. Also maintenance kits, emergency kits, weight loss, and biohacking products that can get you ready for the holidays. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You need these, especially at home or even on the road. And if you want to check out that fall foliage, maybe you have another trip planned up to New England or even the upper Midwest for a spectacular time of year. Have the right medication on hand. It's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Scan the QR code now. It's code RSBN10, RSBN10 for all those life-saving medications. Again, antivirals, antibacterials, antibiotics, emergency medical kits, and those medicines like ivermectin, mebendazole, NAD+, methylene blue that sometimes your doctor or the pharmacy down the street will not prescribe to you. These are solely doctors, pharmacists, nurses, and practitioners focused on you, the great patriots of this network. There's no insurance, there's no hassle, no red tape, no bureaucracy, just life-saving medications to your doorstep within 2 to 3 days. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. And Speaking of making America healthy again, you want to go to covepure.com/RSBN. You can see the great graphic we have up there. It's no bigger than a coffee machine that you might have on your kitchen counter or table or within that den to get pure, delicious H2O. It's because we believe that clean drinking water is one of the best investments you can make for your family's health. Here's something you might not realize. When people take meds, their bodies don't absorb all of it. In fact, even with my Synthroid that I have to take in the morning, I always fast in the morning and drink a lot of water to get my day started. Much of that stuff gets flushed down the toilet in the process. Water treatment plants are horrible at filtering out those leftover pharmaceuticals and the fluorides. I mean, RFK Jr. has been vindicated in his life work in order to stop these calamities in our H2O system. Hormone disruptors from birth control pills. No wonder our society is so messed up. So protect what matters. It's covepure.com/RSBN. Luckily, CovePure is lab certified to remove up to 99.9% of these contaminants. It's their Clearwater technology, which is truly the best in the business when it comes to reverse osmosis system. This includes fluorides, PFAs, agricultural runoff, and of course, pharmaceutical drugs. First thing you're going to notice with this is the clean, pure taste. It might sound cliche, but it's absolutely fantastic. You see how easy it is to assemble. It's covepure.com/RSBN. Get $200 off. Plug it right into the wall there. You can have cold water, warm water, the room temperature. You can even select what that will be. So if you're making any other kind of drink along with that warm water or cold water, you would not take a stranger's drug prescription. So why accept their leftovers in your water? It's covepure.com/RSBN. 200% off. Drink pure, live pure. Scan the QR code now for all of those savings. Protect what matters as we look at 12:37 on the East Coast. Good afternoon, America, and good morning to most of you heading out west to the Golden Coast as President Trump outlined 11 lessons and a video that I thought, man, you know, I've sat through a lot of speeches, whether as a spectator myself during my tenure with Turning Point USA, or even just covering it right here at this outstanding network. The countless I've tried to keep count, but it's in the hundreds now. I've got to observe this very brilliant 45th and 47th Commander-in-Chief in the real time. But this one really stuck out to me. I thought, you know, was this a speech from my birthday? Yes, it was. Back on May 1st, the commencement of the University of Alabama at Tuscaloosa, where legends are made, except for their football team. I'm just kidding. But President Trump outlining those 11 lessons for life. And really, if you're a young person or older, wherever you're at in life, maybe grab a pen and paper, definitely scrub back on this, and listen to these 11 lessons, because I think you can make them tangible in just about all that you do. President Trump with his 11 lessons.
Let me share some of the biggest lessons I've learned from a lifetime spent building dreams. First, if you think that you're too young to do something great, let me tell you that you are wrong. You're not too young. In America, with drive and ambition, young people can do anything. Second of all, and very importantly, you have to love what you do. I rarely see somebody that's successful that doesn't love what he or she does. Third thing is to think big. You know, you're going to do something, you might as well think big, because it's just as hard to solve a small problem as a big problem, and it's just as much energy and everything else, except the result is going to be a smaller one. So love what you do, but think big. Fourth is work hard. Work hard. Fifth is don't lose your momentum. You just want to keep it going, and you have to know if you are losing it, you have to know when you're losing it, so maybe you stop, and maybe it's time to stop. Number 6, if you want to change the world, you have to have the courage to be an outsider. In other words, you have to take certain risks and do things a little bit differently. Otherwise, if that weren't the case, everybody would be successful. Number 7 is to trust your instincts, common sense. You can go very far in life with common sense. 8th, everybody should believe in the American dream. It's real, it's there, and it's right before you. 9th, think of yourself as a winner. The power of positive thinking. In recent years, too many of our young people have really been taught to think of themselves as victims. But in America, we reject that idea that anyone is born a victim. Our heroes are the ones who take charge of their own destiny despite the odds. And next is to be an original. The all-time greats were people who had the confidence to be a little different. God only created one of you, so don't try to be someone else. Finally, and most importantly, never, ever give up. I've learned that perseverance is everything, so whatever happens, no matter where you are in life, stay optimistic and just keep pushing forward. Never let anyone tell you that something is impossible, ever, ever, ever. In America, the impossible is what we all do best.
A great list of 11 lessons from the Commander-in-Chief, from a lifetime of battles in business to building out Manhattan and skyscrapers across the entire world and reshaping the political landscape in a way that harkens back to not only our founding, but the great populace, to re-examine really the establishment of the Republican and Democrat parties, the fact that the neocon and neoliberal agendas failed the American people, that spreading democracy through foreign invasions and starting wars was not the way to go, that we could do better than people with the names Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Hussein Obama, and that of the autopen, the so-called Scranton Joe, about pulling himself up from his bootstraps. And maybe it is because he had early onset mental calamity and loss and perhaps Alzheimer's dementia. And we always wish everyone well going through any kind of health situation. The United States of America was put in a national security crisis because of the last administration. It's become abundantly clear in the last 200 plus days. And I think that could be agreed upon by the numerous people we have spoken to, right, left, and center, but also just those out there. Do you feel more of a calmness, more of an awareness of, good God? I mean, you had a person in Vladimir Putin who was actually openly threatening to use a nuclear missile. You had Pakistan and India over the course of the last few months who said they would use them on one another, and President Trump stopping that. And Vladimir Putin admitting in Anchorage, Alaska, that if President Trump was in office, he would have not invaded Ukraine in 2022. So it's that kind of candid thinking, out-of-the-box approach to things, the use of tariffs, the securing of our border, putting American policy first, and as Secretary of State Marco Rubio says, putting that America First agenda on the forefront. If it does not serve this country, if it does not serve our people, why do it? Why pursue it? And it's defined this administration, and it's kept evildoers at bay. Going all the way back to something that wasn't even in the news that much. It was Guyana, where Secretary Rubio, one of his first trips there months ago, stating to the Venezuelan government who was threatening to invade, it'd be a really big mistake to go after the free country of Guyana and one of America's trading partners. Just don't want to do that. And it's nice to see that this country is defended once again and seeking answers. And seeking answers is something that has been on the mind of many people dating back this last few years. And this is cut number 6, Mr. Director, but it's these drug companies. And it's the success or efficacy of the COVID vaccine or the lack thereof. As President Trump stating on Truth Social, it's very important that the drug companies justly justify the success of their various COVID drugs. Many people think that they are a miracle, that they've saved millions of lives. Others disagree, with the CDC being ripped apart over the questions. I simply want the answer. I want it now. And I've been shown information from Pfizer and others That is extraordinary, but they never seem to show those results to the public. Why not? They go off on the next hunt and let everyone rip themselves apart, including Bobby Kennedy Jr. and the CDC, trying to figure out the success or failures of the drug companies and if they work. They show me great numbers and results, but they don't seem to be showing them to many others. I want them to show them now to the CDC and to the public and clear up this mess, one way or the other. I hope Operation Warp Speed was as brilliant as many say it was, and if not, we'll all want to know about it and why. Thank you for your attention to this important matter, President DJT. And that's something that's been on my heart and mind and something I've wrestled with even in my own career. Because if COVID did not happen, I don't know if all of these other amazing things happen, from the people I've met to the opportunities and the doors that have opened, and even some of those that have closed in the process in the course over the last 5+ years. But sadly, many people suffering, not only losing their jobs, in some cases, losing lives or losing bodily autonomy in the process. That I thought for the far left, it was all about my body, my choice. But that only seems to be relating to the termination of a pregnancy. So we live in interesting times, and we will hear from the Commander-in-Chief in roughly about an hour and 15 minutes, really riding the waves high on success in these 200+ days into the new administration. Thank you to our sponsors at Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's mypillow.com/RSBN. The master marketer himself, as President Trump puts it, it's Mike Lindell with his offices, his facilities in the great state of Minnesota. It's the free shipping sale. You get the My Cross that Mike wears on a daily basis. There's a male and female version of both. Save 50% with that great promo code, RSBN. Easy to remember. The MyPillow bed sheets as low as $24.98, all sizes, all colors. The multi-use MyPillow 2.0 for little or as low as a lunch deal, $9.98. You can't find many of those out there. So whether it's the silver, the white, the pink, or a themed pillow like In God We Trust, or with Lady Liberty adorning the New York Harbor. You can call today. Don't delay. It's 800-836-7566, 800-836-7566. Support Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network by shopping now, mypillow.com/RSBN. If you like what you see on this network, we have a lot of fun with you. It's almost as if we are one big MAGA family doing what we can in our neck of the woods, just as the 45th and 47th Commander-in-Chief has paved the way with his 50th Vice President and the 119th Congress. I hope they had a nice recess and working period in their district, coming back to Washington, D.C. today or in the coming days. Support us right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. And there's a couple of ways to do that. It's rsbnetwork.com/donate or texting RSBN to 801-801. That's also a big address that we have. It's 1550-1550 Opal Lake Road, Suite 6, Box 344, in the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, 36830, 1550 Opal Lake Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830, as the Tigers return home from the great state of Texas. So it's the home of Auburn University and the home of Right Side Broadcasting Network. For all America First updates and exclusive offers, rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. We have great writers here at the network, including Dylan Burrows, and a Sunday devotional, which is quite nice to look over and reflect upon before you go to church on Sunday morning. So you can catch all of that there for a deep dive on the issues that affect you most and are affecting our culture as a whole. What a time to be alive in 2025. The good, the bad, and the ugly. It's a nonstop media cycle, and we are honored to be your go-to live desk within the new media, as President Trump is set to make an announcement roughly 70 minutes from now, 7-0, 1 hour and 10 minutes away for the scheduled announcement from President Trump. And we hope you had a very relaxing Labor Day weekend, caught some football games the first week of college, but also got to hug those loved ones of yours, because sadly, there are people who are going without that. And it's not only the terrible tragedy at the Catholic Church in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Bishop Robert Barron really condemning the language of the Minneapolis mayor, who really scoffed at the idea of thoughts and prayers. You know, Jen Psaki did the exact same thing on that other network, that thoughts and prayers don't really matter and we don't want your thoughts and prayers. That's precisely what is the most important thing to do each and every day, whether it's in the morning, midday, before your meal, or also before you rest your head at night. Because as Vice President J.D. Vance put it, that we turn to God because we believe he is listening. Even when it is quiet, we find him in the silence, in the solemn remembrance of our loved ones. And like clockwork, we saw the violence in Chicago this past weekend. It's been a big thing. Cut number 2, Mr. Director, President Trump speaking about that. It's the Labor Day violence. This is something that will never be considered a mass shooting. And it's happened time and again under mayors dating back to Richard Daley, who actually had the city under control for the most part. But at least 54 people were shot in Chicago over the weekend. 8 people were killed, and the last 2 weekends were similar. Chicago is the worst and the most dangerous city in the world by far. Pritzker needs help badly. He just doesn't know it yet. I will solve the crime problem fast, just like I did in D.C. Chicago will be safe again and soon make America great again. And I'm sure you might have missed it, given you're enjoying the barbecues and just time with family, but Mayor Brandon Johnson signs an executive order stating that the local police in Chicago are not allowed to work with any National Guard, not allowed to work with any federal agencies. I don't see how that's necessarily constitutional to not allow the interagency discussions. We're coming up on the horrible anniversary of September 11th, and we know the failures that happened there when, at that time, FDNY, NYPD, and then federal outlets did not have ability to radio one another. It'll be the 24th anniversary of that. All law enforcement, all military, should be able to communicate with one another. I think that's another 80-20 or perhaps 93-7 issue, like the one of men in women's sports or just simple biological science. There are 2 genders, 2 sexes, male and female, period. I think all Republican and Democrat voters mostly agree on that. And if not, quite frankly, you're a radical maniac. There's no other way to put that. And the proof is in the pudding with a great city like Chicago, a place that has meant the world to me. You continue to see year after year and summer after summer the calamity and now egregious failed leadership of a governor and a mayor who seem to want to put politics before the safety in their communities. And this president has stated, he stated it last week at that cabinet meeting, I will do whatever it takes. I'll work with Republicans, Democrats. It does not matter. You've seen him in action now for over a decade. The sparring partners, the nicknames, hey, you may have not liked the charisma or style of it. I thought it was funny. I thought it was actually hilarious, bringing the little rocket man to the table, someone who once threatened to blow up the world, someone that Barack Hussein Obama told Donald John Trump, you're going to go to war with North Korea. President Trump reacting, did you call him? You say you have the pen, you have the phone. Did you pick up the phone and call him? We saw what happened in 2019. President Trump, the first leader post the Korean conflict, which is still ongoing, mind you. It's never been officially ended. That DMZ zone, the 38th parallel separating freedom from communism, South Korea from North Korea, the dream of having that peninsula all together under the beacon of freedom one day. But President Trump, at the invitation of the North Korean leader, coming over that DMZ zone, that threshold. It was a monumentous moment. President Trump reflected on it recently, saying he looked up all over him at the windows, and he said the Secret Service was not too happy about that. And I'm sure on the other side, the guards for Kim Jong-un very surprised and unsettled at what was taking place in that moment. And there is a true skill to this president, his focus on negotiation and not only bringing prices down in this country over Labor Day weekend, but also for America as a whole. And it's based on trade policies. If we can go to cut number 5, Mr. Director, the trade policies with China specifically. What few people fail to recognize and understand is that we do very little business with India, but they do a tremendous amount of business with the United States. In other words, they sell us massive amounts of goods. Their biggest client, but we sell them very little. Until now, a totally one-sided relationship. It has been like that for many decades. The reason is that India has charged us, until now, such high tariffs, the most of any country, that our businesses are unable to sell into the country of India. It has been a totally one-sided disaster. Also, India buys most of its oil and military products from Russia, very little from the United States. They have now offered to cut their tariffs to nothing, but it's getting pretty late. They should have done this years ago. Just some simple facts for people to ponder. So President Trump leaving some crumbs and some sprinkles throughout Truth Social over the course of Labor Day and this Labor Day weekend, this holiday, to see what he will be talking about roughly 1 hour from now. And in regards to Russia, we saw that, I talk about it almost daily on the show, that the AutoPen canceling the Keystone Pipeline. The former governor, the communist in Canada, Justin Trudeau, on his knees begging the AutoPen, please, 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 we need those Canadian jobs. Don't cancel the Keystone Pipeline, Mr. President AutoPen. And he went ahead and did that. And the devastating nature that was for North America as a whole, especially the Western Yukon territories, British Columbia, and Alberta for Canada, among the great state of Alaska, the last frontier, and throughout our entire country. But he gave the green light to Nord Stream 2 for their energy dominance over the European Union and Germany as a whole. And then, of course, the invasion of Ukraine. The spider web all has connections back to the heart of it. You look at those intricate spider webs. I'm fascinated with them down south here with all they're bigger bugs than I was used to growing up. And you get to see these spiders just artfully craft not only their house, but their tool for catching prey. And it's a great way to analyze the deep state globalists entrenched in special interests who are coming to an end peacefully and patriotically in your nation's capital and throughout the world with the common sense trade practices and policies of this president. Don't forget, a summer more successful than any other, from the G7 summit to NATO, new deals with the United Kingdom to the European Union as a whole, $600 billion trade deal, a 15% tariff threshold to enter our markets and access those, and then a new $720 billion energy deal, all done in Trump Turnberry, all on his own property, on foreign soil, and in the middle of that great opening golf round at that new and improved site, and really the home of golf, the great Scottish Highlands, President Trump able to call Cambodia and Thailand and say, hey, knock it off, or the trade deals are not happening, or the ones that I did right before that Scottish trip are going to be null and void. I don't know how he does it, but we're looking forward to seeing the 45th and 47th Commander-in-Chief 1 hour from now. President Trump to make an announcement at 2 o'clock Eastern. You're watching Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's Live Desk. We'll take a quick break for commercial sponsors. Don't change that dial. And for goodness sakes, stay on the right side of history.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door. Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. I'm Robert McNeely as we await President Trump. 1 hour from now, roughly 59 minutes. A good afternoon to you, America, on the East Coast and in the Central States, out in my Mountain Time Zone friends, and out on the Golden Coast of California. Good morning to you as we hope you had a wonderful, relaxing Labor Day weekend. My fantasy football text messaging is going crazy right now. And we're all excited about that as we enter into the National Football League's season, something President Trump looking forward to as well, a man who loves culture, music, sports, and who will be hosting the Kennedy Center Honors in December. We look forward to that, and great recipients like the King George of Country, Mr. George Strait himself, will be receiving that. Gloria Gaynor, someone who really rocked the disco world, and Kiss, one of the finest bands and greatest performers in American history, and Sly Stallone, Rocky and Rambo himself, people who have made a splash in American entertainment, but also within helping their communities. It'll be a special star-studded night, as I'm sure it will be here before we know it, so let's enjoy that fall as some of those headlines hitting that are positive and sad in the mix of this world happening in real time. 1,400 people looks like have lost their lives. A roughly 6.0 or so magnitude earthquake in Afghanistan. Our thoughts and prayers are with those at a moment's notice. You just don't know when your time is, and we hate to see something like that, a natural disaster taking so much life. Also, guns in the classroom, this topic really being highlighted by the violence in Chicago, the violence in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And students in Tennessee will now be required to pass a gun background safety test and learn about it, just as they did years ago. And we saw that from photo footage and testimonials of those people who were in grade school post-World War II, and the fact that they learned how to use these as tools and how to use them safely. So a bill passing in Tennessee regarding that topic, and that will commence upon January 1st of next year. Now, China, Beijing is unveiling an anti-ship missile, including the hypersonic YJ-17, something to try to challenge the U.S. naval fleet in the Pacific. So we'll be keeping our eyes watching all of those very important headlines. And thank you to our sponsors, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. This is the unofficial end of summer after Labor Day, but also the beginning of that flu season. So stock up on ivermectin, antibiotics, antivirals, emergency kits, maintenance meds, biohacking products, and weight loss products, all 10% off. It's RSBN 10, RSBN 10. Scan the QR code now. Have the meds on hand that can literally save your life. President Trump signing the executive order against the PBMs. It's insurance companies that would double dip, that would own the pharmacies, and then not prescribe these great life-saving medications to you. So All Family Pharmacy has been jumping ahead of all of it and has been the go-to online pharmacy for this. Within 2 to 3 days after ordering at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, you have those life-saving meds come right to your door. So whether it is the issue of not having insurance, whether it is someone down the street from your pharmacy not wanting to prescribe that, there's no red tape, no bureaucracy, no hassle. Simply doctors, nurses, and pharmacists, healthcare professionals who want to watch over you and get you this life-saving medication. Again, ivermectin, methylene blue, mebendazole, NAD+, emergency medical kits, antibiotics, antivirals, antibacterials, and that great list of biohacking products right there for you in real time. Thank you to Michael Kunzler, the co-owner of this fine organization, and his team at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. And once you take those on the road with you, if you're checking out the beautiful fall foliage of New England and the upper Midwest, make sure that those savings are intact and that your wealth is managed appropriately, whether it is security or preservation or simply protecting what you've worked hard for, your retirement. Grab the complimentary Presidential Gold Guide by calling today. Don't delay, 800-476-7790. You'll receive that handsome display of the 45th and 47th President of the United States and all the options you have for the gold and silver preservation, something that has stood the test of time through the whole of human history of 5,000 plus years. Visit rsbnforthegold.com. That's rsbnforthegold.com. Call immediately to discover how you can eliminate those IRA fees permanently. rsbnforthegold.com, 800-476-7790. What are you doing? Why are you even watching this at this point? Go call this number, 800-476-7790, rsbnforthegold.com. Thank you to Monetary Gold, the best in the business, and their wonderful spokesperson, Mr. David Schroeder, who really takes us through why those hot commodities, gold and silver, precious commodities, in fact, are needed in 2025. Yeah, Bank of America literally say the dollar was falling and spiraling out of control, and that paper money just can't hold up against the threats of inflation, war, and geopolitical politics domestically, but also abroad. So again, rsbnforthegold.com. Thank you to Monetary Gold for sponsoring us on the right side of history, as President Trump has made clear that this modern Republican Party is that of a working class. It's for the working people. It was on full display for me. I thought about that in Peachtree City, Georgia on August 21st, when Vice President J.D. Vance visiting Alta Refrigeration, then last week in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and I looked around the manufacturing facility where I used to sell great high-quality refrigeration products. They also take care of Chick-fil-A. You might have heard of them. But it's wonderful to see that the Republican Party has embraced this Big Tent philosophy, a philosophy focused on the working man, something I experienced when I grew up in the Chicago area. As conservative as the suburbs used to be, the city of Chicago wasn't too far off. You'd have conservative Democrats who church-going, God-fearing people. But once upon a time, the Democrats actually supported labor, and vice versa. That's kind of changed now, actually in a great way, because it seems like they want to put the middle class last and bankrupt Detroit while bankrolling Beijing, whereas this president understands how an economy works and how it works best by growing the middle class, not by shrinking them, and not by pushing the far left, insane, neoliberal, and even the neocon agenda that spent money on foreign wars and then harmed or maimed or even killed some of the best and brightest of those young Americans who are making to look their way, either through the GI Bill or simply by and the volunteer military serving their country. And that's why we're fortunate enough to have Caroline Levitt every single week display the MAGA Minute and really highlight from week to week what's been the positive, the negative, but how this administration is fighting for you on a daily basis in order to make America safe again, make it wealthy again, and healthy again, and ultimately great again. And in case you missed it, we can replay that now for you. The MAGA Minute from last Friday with Caroline Levitt.
Welcome to the MAGA Minute. First, I want to address the horrific shooting that took place at the Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis, Minnesota. President Trump signed a proclamation immediately following the shooting, acknowledging the victims and their families and directing flags to be flown at half-staff. President Trump and the First Lady encouraged the entire nation to join us in praying for the victims and their families as they face unimaginable grief and loss. We will continue to provide further updates as they become available. Also this week at the White House, President Trump held a 3-hour and 17-minute-long cabinet meeting, setting a record for the longest televised event in presidential history. He also hosted the South Korean president in the Oval Office, as well as the Abbey Gate Gold Star families, after which he signed the first ever proclamation to commemorate the sacrifice of the 13 brave souls who lost their lives on that tragic day. President Trump also signed an executive order to protect Americans by ensuring federal policies and resources are not used to support cashless bail policies across the nation, which have been a complete and total disaster. And the president's crackdown on crime in Washington, D.C. is working. Total crime is down almost 20%. Violent crime is down 30%. Carjackings are down 67%. Homicides are down 40%. And robberies are down 40% right here in our nation's capital. The Dow Jones reached a record high, and the Congressional Budget Office, often partisan and left-wing, was forced to admit that tariffs will reduce our nation's deficit by $4 trillion. This Labor Day, gas prices are projected to be at their lowest in half a decade. And First Lady Melania Trump announced the Presidential Artificial Intelligence Challenge, inviting K-12 students and educators across our country to participate. Vice President Vance delivered remarks in La Crosse, Wisconsin, touting the administration's many historic accomplishments. And finally, amid pressure from President Trump, Cracker Barrel announced it would revert back to its OG logo. It's been a great week, and we wish you a very happy Labor Day. We'll see you for next week's MAGA Minute.
Thank you to White House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt, the superstar, as President Trump puts it, the GOAT in our hearts and minds. She is doing an excellent job in the James S. Brady briefing room, dealing with legacy items and it's sometimes a hostile press, but I would say a happier press over the course of these 200 plus days, because they actually have a responsive administration, people who actually answer the questions given to them. And we've never seen the James Brady briefing room so staffed as we've seen it now. It's rather famous, and now we have to sometimes bleed it on over into, that big television production studio that the AutoPen administration created to try to make it look like Joe Biden was actually in charge during the last administration. But we know that that was not necessarily the case, as the AutoPen investigations continue. The questions into a number of different things regarding the mandates of the past and the corruption that took place during the in-between of the first and second administrations of President Trump with the AutoPen and the travesty that is. So all of this can be highlighted of what we've covered over the course of over an hour today, what will take place in roughly 47 minutes from now. President Trump to make an announcement at 2 o'clock Eastern. And we will have that live here for you to make up your own mind, because we believe that deeply here at the network. We are your go-to rally network, as we have been for an entire decade. But since January, transitioning into that live desk. And a lot of people ask, what is the live desk? Well, it's yours truly talking about a number of different things on the docket for the day, focused on inside and outside the Beltway, the federal government that you put into place back on November 5th and into the early morning hours of November 6th, just last year in 2024. I often reflect upon being on the campaign trail about roughly, give or take, 80 or so % of the time, and sometimes here in studio to cover all of what was perhaps the greatest comeback in modern American history, if not all of American political history. Only two people have served non-consecutive terms. The Democrat from Ohio, that was Grover Cleveland, the 22nd and 24th President of the United States, and Donald John Trump. We're seeing it in real time as the 45th and 47th Commander-in-Chief, once elected from the Empire State of New York, and then the second time, the free Sunshine State of Florida, where Mar-a-Lago is now that full-time home. And what does that live desk do exactly for you? Just bringing you everything in real time, unedited, the speeches, the press conferences, the hearings that are happening right there on Capitol Hill, and I'm sure we'll have many more of those as the fall term of the first session will be underway in the coming days after the August recess and the home district period of time where Republicans have been very successful outraising Democrats on a grand scale with over 80 million in the last quarter. So it's looking like 2026 midterms can be a big one. So you can go right to Kalshi.com/RSBN to make those predictions, like who will be successful in 2026 with the House and the Senate. Who will the Republicans retain power? Will it flip to the Democrats? And God forbid, because we know what their agenda is. Impeach, 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 and Russia, 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 although they created the hoax to begin with. But who will win the Nobel Peace Prize, the Oslo, Norway highest civilian honor? And it's looking like Donald Trump is one of the leading contenders. And we know that he's been nominated by countless officials now, from Congresswoman Claudia Tenney in New York to Congressman Buddy Carter in Georgia, to 70,000 Cambodian monks and the Buddhist temple in that fair country. And how about a dear friend, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, also presenting that to President Trump when he last visited him at the White House, among countless other leaders and governments, including Pakistan. So that question of peace, of roughly 7 or so conflicts that now President Trump has helped resolve, some generational, some the most bloody conflicts since World War II, including Rwanda and Congo. But will Zelensky meet with Putin before January? Will this all come to an end with Russia and Ukraine? After those peace summits, we know that 15 more lives were taken on the account of the Russian Federation against Kiev and a Ukrainian or Russian offensive against the Ukrainian people. But we saw the pursuit of peace in Anchorage, Alaska, and at the White House with European leaders. And will it be a bilateral meeting? Or will it be the trilateral, as both President Putin and President Zelensky have offered that invitation to President Trump to be on hand if necessary? And President Trump said he will help however necessary. It does not help his health, but he wants people to stop dying. He's always been consistent on that. So it's all of those questions. It's also questions as we entered the last few weeks here of Major League Baseball. Will the Los Angeles Dodgers repeat the World Series? Hey, will my Chicago Cubs finally come on through for another victory roughly a decade after that star-studded one? We waited 108 years. Let's not wait another 108 years. So whether it's music, sports, culture, politics, it's Kalshi.com. Trade on anything. Scan that QR code now. Kalshi.com/RSBN. And while you make those trades and those bets and the air gets a little bit cooler and those hands get somewhat drier over the course of the next few weeks, turn to angelpaste.com for the OG Miracle Cream Vitamin B infused. I've used it here on the network. I use it on a regular basis, actually, to try to keep my skin glowing, and that's the result you will be very satisfied with a number of options. The orange option, in fact, vitamin C infused, and again, non-GMO, no chemicals, a natural mosquito repellent, and there's also the facial spray for guys and for gals to go paint that town red. So for my fellow men out there, I know it could be, oh, I don't need this stuff. I got to grip the tackle box. I got to go work on the car. Whatever that might be, you could still be handy and use this great miracle cream, whether it's that first date or that 50th wedding anniversary. You want to impress your significant other, and angelpaste.com, the way to go with that. They are a Christian-based company based out of Spring, Texas. They hire veterans, and they're all around wonderful people. So kudos to angelpaste.com. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history as we cover everything within the Beltway today. President Trump is set to make an announcement at 2 o'clock on the East Coast, and we will be here right for that announcement to take that live to you, the American people. And we're working on what that might be specifically about. We know that it was a Labor Day weekend marked by some of the lowest gas prices in the last 4 years, where the average at the pump was just over $3 nationally speaking. And right here in the Southeast, we're seeing some pretty low numbers for regular, right around that 2.7 mark, good give or take. A little bit more in Atlanta, Georgia. But we are seeing that much needed relief on those needed expenditures. We know egg prices are down big time. We know inflation going down. And it seems as if the tariff approach really working, because $15 million coming into the U.S. coffers, as President Trump shared on Truth Social, thanks to the work of these big, beautiful tariffs. And the one big, beautiful bill, which was a highlight legislatively in the last session. So we'll see now what is to be addressed, as we had that opportunity to speak with Congressman Rich McCormick while in Peachtree City, Georgia. And he highlighted that although there is that trade deficit with China, they've been weakened to a certain extent. It's actually Japan now that owns most of our debt. And we know the Japanese prime minister and their team, having visited President Trump at the White House, and a great partner in the Indo-Pacific, and especially against the aggression of the Chinese Communist Party and the damage they seek to do, not only in the region, but also against the Taiwanese people, who are truly the heir apparent of their own nation, and truly follow those years and generations of Chinese history, and should be a free and independent nation. They are, but they're under constant threat from a Chinese naval aggression that seeks to usurp their authority. And we've seen that as well from the use of China unveiling an anti-ship missile. It is now known as the YJ-17, signaling China's challenge to the U.S. Pacific Fleet and naval operations throughout the Pacific coast. And we know that China had a free heyday when it was the Otto Penn administration. Remember the big balloon that went over Montana all the way down through South Carolina until it was eliminated? That horrible spy balloon? What about Eric Swalwell, the congressman? I mean, he's especially compromised with his affair with the Chinese spy. We see this as a common practice on the far left, wanting to globalize and give away American sovereignty, bankrupt Detroit, bankroll Beijing. It's part of their mantra. We saw that in 1999 with then Senator Otto Penn and then President Bill Clinton, who were cheersing and clinking champagne glasses with then the Vice Premier Xi Jinping of China, saying that, opening up the world markets, bringing them into the World Trade Organization would be good. A competitive China would be good for the world. Nothing could have been further from the truth, from the Wuhan virus to the cheap labor, to the Uyghur Muslims who are in concentration camps. Our satellite intelligence tells us that, to the horrible lockdowns they continue on their own people. You know, if there's something that you want to go view, it's actually Shen Yun is a great presentation of Chinese culture and art. I know it's gone through here in this region of the country throughout the Southeast. They actually train in New York City, and many of them Chinese refugees with those talents, showcasing the beauty of what's been the whole of human history of Chinese culture for centuries. And They put it to music, they put it to dance, and they full well know that they come here to showcase and tell the real story, knowing that they will likely never see their homeland again, and in some cases leaving family behind, to get the truth out there. And it's something that our friends over at the Epoch Times has really covered. And a friend over there, correspondent Iris Tao, who she was one of those people that was highlighted last week who was mugged in Washington, D.C. when all that violence was happening. This should never happen to anyone, right, left, or center. But fortunately, there are people out there in the new media getting that truth out. And there's some brave souls in the legacy items that get that truth out there in order to showcase what's happening, not only in the Beltway, but throughout this great country of ours, as we await President Trump to make an announcement at 2 o'clock Eastern. We're highlighting just all of the big wins that have happened in 200-plus days, the breaking news over this Labor Day weekend, as I know you get ready and back into the grind of things. We hope that whether you stayed near or far, traveled by plane, train, or automobile, hope that you genuinely had the most wonderful weekend with family and friends and those you love. And we know that it was an exciting weekend of college football. Week 1 underway. We're especially happy here in Aubieland with the results of Friday, taking on our friends in the Big 12. The Baylor Bears could not keep up with the offensive attack of the Auburn Tigers. War Eagle heard around the nation, especially in the great state of Alabama. They're returning home this weekend for another battle as the NFL prepares for Week 1. So much happening in the Beltway and within your neck of the woods. And always feel free to share what might be happening, because we like to uncover what might be something that's disturbing, or either something to highlight, maybe a story that can be inspirational. And preview note for the upcoming programming and weeks ahead. We got some Man on the Street on Friday. I think you'll like the stories of great love stories to family and friends who are thriving in this neck of the woods. We want to hear what's happening in your neck of the woods. Send it to feedback@rsbn.tv, feedback@rsbn.tv. Give us your thoughts, what you're thinking, and how you're enjoying the live desk to the voice of reason, everything in between, and maybe those predictions for big rallies come 2026 and the midterms, something crucial for this president to get his agenda finished and accomplished. You know, I get a chuckle out of, there's a business here downtown that has the No King signs displayed. So I will choose not to go into that store and purchase their things, because I will defend their freedom of speech to hell freezes over. But I will not be partaking and purchasing any of their products, because I just don't feel that that's the truth at all. As President Trump has said, if I was a dictator, this would be a lot easier to get a number of things through not only Congress, but to make law instantly. Just declare it. He has to talk to House Speaker Mike Johnson and Leader Thune on a regular basis. So got to get a kick out of it when some people take a certain narrative, whether it's because they're uninformed or they're simply ideological. But what we hope to do here at the right side of history is showcase what's actually happening and allow you to make up your own mind, because we know you're smart, you're an American citizen, and a person engaged in the process who put this constitutional republic back together with constitutional governance back on November 5th of last year. So as we get to the bottom of the hour, it's roughly 32 minutes until President Trump is to make an announcement. We are waiting to see what that is as we cover the news of the day right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. We'll go to a quick commercial break for sponsors. And don't change that dial. Stay on the right side of history.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interviewed the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Tired of being told no by your doctor, your pharmacy, or worse, your insurance company? You're not alone. Millions of Americans are waking up to a broken healthcare system. That's why more and more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy. We believe in medical freedom. We deliver the prescription and the medication, all from licensed U.S. doctors and pharmacists, from ivermectin and trusted antibiotics to maintenance medications, even NAD+, the revolutionary anti-aging supplement. Use code RSBN10 at checkout for 10% off your first order.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. I'm Robert McNeely at 1:30 Eastern. Good afternoon, America, and good morning to those on the West Coast. We hope that you had a lovely Labor Day weekend. It was highlighted by President Trump celebrating that in a memorandum and really highlighting why our federal holidays should be made great again. Time to enjoy with family and friends and highlight the successes, especially $15 trillion coming into the United States via tariffs and all of these new trade deals with countless countries so they can have access to our markets, but mostly so we can export again. That's the main reason why we were able to get out of the Great Depression and out of the post-war world, those of the Great Wars and World War II. It was the original Operation Warp Speed. It was the use of private and public partnerships to spur the steel industry and manufacturing. And dating back to the Civil War, sadly, that's how economic and technological advances can happen, is through a wartime economy. And it's not necessarily because of directives from the federal government, but rather industry and regulations getting out of the way in order to spur that growth and build out a robust American middle class. And this president has proven that on countless occasions, with the promises made and promises kept and really putting your money where your mouth is. And that's why we've highlighted a number of videos this week, whether it be from the MAGA Minute to No Administration Working Harder, because it showcases what can be accomplished in 200 plus days when you simply use common sense. It truly is a new dawn in America. And one of the ads that's been running over this weekend was those 11 lessons that President Trump highlighted. And I thought about it. I've been in a number of President Trump speeches now, whether as throughout my career to the time being a reporter and anchor. And I think it's somewhere around hundreds of speeches that I've listened to. And sometimes there's a theme to it or there's a direction. But my favorite have always been the ones where he has presented to students. And at the University of Alabama, where legends are made, in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, he gave that commencement on May 1st that addressed to a standing room only. And a couple of things struck me. Throughout the entirety of the speech, almost every single student in that arena stood for the commander-in-chief, as is protocol. But that is just remarkable to see the respect from young people eager to go after this American economy. Because after all, we do, like the late, great Rush Limbaugh said, as tough as things can be, we live in America, just the opportunities to think big, dream big, and no one has embodied it quite like Donald Trump through a business career and now in public service as President of the United States. So I thought when I heard this video, wow, I was there. That was the commencement speech at Tuscaloosa, Alabama. One for the ages. And if you have a pen and paper, a notepad, something to write on, grab these now because I think they are very relevant to wherever you're at in life. It's the 11 reasons that, or 11 lessons from President Trump on this Tuesday, September 2nd.
Let me share some of the biggest lessons I've learned from a lifetime spent building dreams. First, if you think that you're too young to do something great, let me tell you that you are wrong. You're not too young. In America, with drive and ambition, young people can do anything. Second of all, and very importantly, you have to love what you do. I rarely see somebody that's successful that doesn't love what he or she does. Third thing is to think big. You know, you're going to do something, you might as well think big, because it's just as hard to solve a small problem as a big problem, and it's just as much energy and everything else, except the result is going to be a smaller one. So love what you do, but think big. Fourth is work hard. Work hard. Fifth is don't lose your momentum. You just want to keep it going, and you have to know if you are losing it, you have to know when you're losing it, so maybe you stop and maybe it's time to stop. Number 6, if you want to change the world, you have to have the courage to be an outsider. In other words, you have to take certain risks and do things a little bit differently. Otherwise, if that weren't the case, everybody would be successful. Number 7 is to trust your instincts, common sense. You can go very far in life with common sense. 8th, everybody should believe in the American dream. It's real, it's there, and it's right before you. 9th, think of yourself as a winner. The power of positive thinking. In recent years, too many of our young people have really been taught to think of themselves as victims. But in America, we reject that idea that anyone is born a victim. Our heroes are the ones who take charge of their own destiny despite the odds. And next is to be an original. The all-time greats were people who had the confidence to be a little different. God only created one of you, so don't try to be someone else. Finally, and most importantly, never, ever give up. I've learned that perseverance is everything, so whatever happens, no matter where you are in life, stay optimistic and just keep pushing forward. Never let anyone tell you that something is impossible, ever, ever, ever. In America, the impossible is what we all do best.
The art of the deal, the art of the comeback, the art of the 45th and 47th Commander-in-Chief in a speech I'll never forget. And students and parents, family, friends, and loved ones all on hand there at the University of Alabama for those great remarks. Always amazing to see him in action, to share his wisdom with the younger generation, because Gen Z is Gen free, and rarely do you hear a president really think about who will be coming after me, and that was highlighted in that speech as well, and I've seen it on countless occasions. Many of you, some of you in here might be right up here one day, so he has that ability to inspire and affect positive change on countless careers as a result. Now, flu season is here, sadly, as the unofficial end of summer happening with Labor Day weekend. But the best time to prepare before you get sick is right now. It's with allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, and they have ivermectin, antibiotics, antivirals, antibacterials as well, emergency medical kits, maintenance meds, and their biohacking products, which was highlighted just last week and will be also highlighted again this week with the great Michael Kunzler, the co-owner of this organization. It's a fine online pharmaceutical operation that is focused on making sure you get the life-saving medications needed without any red tape or bureaucracy. If you don't have insurance, that's okay. From essential medications like these ivermectin, NAD+, methylene blue, to mebendazole, among others, these cutting-edge technologies will help save your life. And you could take these on vacation with you. So if you're still looking for an early fall, a late summer trip, then you'll be able to do this. They also have GLP weight loss medication, all on hand for you to make these fine decisions. So it's simple, it's fast. You'll get these prescriptions in 2 to 3 days. If you order with them now at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, scan the QR code there. It's RSBN10. I'm telling you, they have a full lineup to help you and your medical needs, whether it's stocking that medicine cabinet or taking it on the road. Allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Scan that code RSBN10 for updates now. And speaking of making America healthy again, you want to visit copure.com because they will help you with all this reverse osmosis. Someone to get the fluoride, the pesticides, the nastiness out of the water. You can see it on display there. It's as big as your coffee maker, easily fitting onto the kitchen countertop or perhaps the den. Get $200 off now, covepure.com/RSBN. You've heard all the talk about this for good reasons, because clean drinking water is one of the best investments you can make for your family's health. Something you might also not realize, and not to be rather gross on this Tuesday afternoon, but the people, when they're taking their medications, it doesn't necessarily absorb into all of their body. So much of that stuff gets flushed down the toilet, and water treatment facility plants are horrible at filtering out those pharmaceuticals, things like antidepressants, antibiotics. Again, the fluoride that RFK Jr. is now vindicated in his life, his work as an attorney, taking on big corporations and public entities to make America's water healthy again. There's even leftover pharmaceuticals and hormone disruptors from birth control pills. There's no wonder our society is so messed up. Luckily, Cove Pure is fighting to remove up to 99% of those pesticides with their clear water technology. We don't want children losing IQ points. If they're drinking out of the tap, science has found that they can lose just that. So Cove Pure is more than just taste. This is what water is supposed to be. Pure, clean, peace of mind. covepure.com/RSBN. $200 off now. You can see how easy it is to use for cold water, warm water, whether you want to make tea with it. There's no plumbers. There's no drilling. Simple to install. Just put that cord right into the wall, and there it is for you at covepure.com/RSBN. You can see it on display there. You can even select the temperature again of what you want, whether it's hot water, cold water, to everything in between. It's covepure.com/RSBN. Get $200 off now. Scan the QR code there. Protect what matters most. Drink pure, live pure. covepure.com/RSBN. Thank you for sponsoring the right side of history as we're getting closer and closer to President Trump to make an announcement at 2 o'clock this afternoon in regards to what we're highlighting today. Many of the major headlines, the topics affecting domestic policy and the entire world, as even Pope Leo XIV commenting on the violence in Minnesota and Chicago as what he called a pandemic of arms, and asking for prayers and intercession to help stop the violence. And sadly, you have people like the Minneapolis mayor, to people on different networks that say thoughts and prayers don't work, or that that's long overdue. It was strongly condemned by voices throughout the world, and especially here in America. Be Vice President J.D. Vance to Bishop Robert Barron in Minnesota, speaking very candidly that we believe God listens to the cries of the poor and those who are brokenhearted. And that's the promise on the other side, is that there will be no more tears. And that's God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, in order that some may be able to spend that eternity with that free, beautiful choice, that ultimate sacrifice on Calvary that opened up the gates of heaven and brought the righteous out of hell, out of Hades, on that first mission of Christ after the resurrection, to go and save those just souls, to be with him and with the Father and the Holy Spirit in eternity forever. That's our hope. That's our mission in this pilgrimage here on earth. And that reminds me that a great film will be coming out by none other than Mel Gibson in 2 parts in 2027. So it'll be at Easter feast and vigil on, I believe that's March 27th of 2027, or late March. And then at the end of Pentecost, the second half of that glorious film being made right now that will showcase the resurrection, the sequel to the Passion of the Christ that was a blockbuster in 2004, a situation that saw Jim Caviezel, who had the same initials as Jesus Christ, JC, who made the film at 33 years old when Christ would ultimately make that sacrifice. And also willingly telling director Mel Gibson at the time, after Mel had told Jim Caviezel, you have to understand, if you do this is probably the end of your acting career. And he said, I have to make this film. And we've only seen the Lord with Jim in various roles, from TV dramas to The Great Sound of Freedom, which has opened the eyes in regards to human trafficking and labor trafficking, something that the last administration did not care to address. And according to Secretary Kennedy, that HHS might have been in an insidious way somehow involved in the trading of these individuals. 300,000 plus children lost during that last administration. Just weeks ago, President Trump highlighting the fact that over 10,000 have been recovered and been brought into the safety and the warmth of good and normal society. So we live in a world that's extraordinarily broken, with a lot of questions. And speaking to family and friends, sometimes you have to ask, how can you sleep at night when we have these grand questions, whether it's over mandates, whether it's over what your government is truly up to, whether it's, can I afford to do this or to pursue that American dream? But the beauty is that you have an administration that is thinking in those terms and how to make it work for the middle class here in America, how to preserve national economic populism, and a revival in this golden era to celebrate 250 years that will culminate on either the North or South Lawn, most likely the South Lawn, a bit more room on the White House, where Marine One comes to pick up and drop off President Trump. A UFC battle on the 4th of July next year, the 250th birthday. Both President Trump and Dana White, the CEO of UFC, confirming that will happen. And we look forward to covering it here on the right side of history for you. And this administration is one that is communicating very openly and honestly about the successes, also the challenges, as this president and vice president, the most approachable in the modern era. And we're seeing now via video, via Truth Social, via the White House, how this administration is showcasing those promises made, promises kept. It's true that no administration has worked harder. And we have cut 15 ready, Mr. Director, to showcase all of the success happening right there at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and abroad in your neck of the woods.
What the president is doing is changing 40 years of a failed bipartisan consensus in Washington, D.C. that has sold out American workers and destroyed the underlying economic strength of the United States of America.
They are just raking in the wins one after another, whether it's restructuring global trade and getting other countries to pay us, passing the one big beautiful bill, and the massive tax incentives there for investing in America, the most aggressive deregulatory campaign in history, and an energy abundance agenda that's brought down gas prices and energy prices for ordinary families.
He has told companies around the world that America is open for business. This is more money coming into your community. This is your hometown where you grew up that has been shuttered because globalists have sold you out, reviving again. Factories where your neighbors are having good paying jobs, where more money is going back into your pockets. And every time you go to the store to purchase a product, you're no longer seeing made in China on the back. You are seeing made in America on the back. That's President Trump's vision.
The policies are working. Business investment is skyrocketing. Jobs are skyrocketing. Inflation is going down. It's exactly as we said.
They think that we could see a take-home increase of anywhere from $85,000 to almost $15,000 if you're a typical family with 2 kids.
Inflation is coming under control, and blue-collar wages are rising faster than they have risen in 60 years. That is a testament to great presidential leadership and the great American people.
The president is smashing open all the world's markets. Our ranchers, our fishermen, our farmers, our entrepreneurs and our businesses can finally sell into Europe. All these countries.
It's the blue-collar boom. The Trump administration celebrating a massive growth in wages for working-class Americans.
This is what he was given a mandate to do. He is the president of the American worker.
Blue-collar wage growth, the only other time it's been this high, wait for it, was during President Trump's first term. No president has done that before.
And as we break down in detail more of those employment numbers and inflation coming down, I'd like to thank our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network and how you can help the great viewer at home. We're taking on the legacy media, and those big corporate interests, just like many great middle-class people are. And that's why Mike Lindell is just trying to get those savings to you with the free shipping sale, the master marketer, as President Trump puts it. The My Cross, you could save 50% now on the cross he wears on a daily basis. The life of Christ that literally changed Mike Lindell. We know the story. We know the inspiration. And there's a male and female version of that cross. Save 50% now, 50 on that. Also, the MyPillow bed sheets, $24.98, all colors, all sizes. And the multi-use MyPillow 2.0, as low as under $10, $9.98 for a pillow that will change the way you sleep. It definitely did for me. And I'm grateful to Mike Lindell for that, with all those different colors from silver to white to pink, red, white, and blue, whatever you would like, but also the In Lady Liberty and God We Trust themed pillows to remind yourself that you are resting your head in the land of the brave, the home, or the land of the free and the home of the brave, right here in the good old U.S. of A. Call today. Don't delay. It's 800-836-7566. Support Mike Lindell and RSBN with mypillow.com/RSBN. If you like what you see here at the network, is your go-to live desk since this January with original programming. And, oh, yes, those rallies. And we look forward to midterm battle that will be next year and what's going on full display as we approach the holidays. Support us right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, rsbnetwork.com/donate, or text RSBN to 801-801. That's rsbnetwork.com/donate, or by texting RSBN to 801-801. Very easy to remember. We also had that hard copy address. You know, it's fun because, 15 years ago? Oh, my goodness, I got an email. And now it's, oh, my goodness, I got a piece of mail. It's funny how times change, but hey, I like the old school way of doing things too. That address, 1550-1550. It's Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344. The loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. A great place to go, and thank you for your support here of Right Side Broadcasting Network. There's also America First updates, exclusive offers at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. Please like, share, and subscribe across all platforms, because every once in a while I'll get the, oh my gosh, I didn't know this existed. Well, here is your message now. So here's the goal this week. Post Labor Day, if you're a regular viewer of the show, just tell about 10 of your friends about Right Side Broadcasting Network and see if they would like to get these groundbreaking newsletters. The great writers here at the network really diving deep into the issues of the day, and a Sunday devotional that I like to read before I head off to church. It's a great group of updates that you'll get on a daily basis, and it's not too terribly antagonizing like certain notifications can be. These are welcoming because you know what's happening in your neck of the woods and within the federal city. For all America First updates and exclusive offers, it's rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. And Mr. Director, as we await President Trump to make an announcement at 2 o'clock, if we could post number 12 and number 13, those cuts on the employment, the economy, real wage growth, and inflation going down. You're seeing that with the pro-worker achievements over Labor Day. With 7 months into President Trump's second term, blue-collar wages have increased by over 1.7% over the last year. It's the blue-collar boom. And the inflation outpaced wages for 26 straight months under the AutoPen administration. So we saw how big of a difference that really was between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Now, real inflation-adjusted median savings are now at their highest level since President Trump's been in office. And inflation is tracking at just 1.9% since the president took his second term. So great accomplishments made domestically, and I think have really changed the mind of traditional Democrat voters as the Republican Party has really welcomed in labor into this populist movement of national economic security and securing the border down south, but also stopping the fentanyl trade that was right above our northern border in the great state of Canada under Justin Trudeau. I mean, it was just terrible to see this communist leadership and far left global thought really riddling the North American continent over the course of 2021 to 2025. But now, 7+ months into the administration, that all has changed. And as it was in the Reagan years, it's a new dawn in America. It's morning in America once again. And if we have cut 4 ready, Mr. Director, for that new dawn in America, it's worth highlighting a recap video on the direction we're going with all the difficulties that are out there. This future in this golden era prepared under the mantle of leadership of those right there at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
It's a new dawn in America. President Trump is delivering a golden age for American workers. Fair trade deals are fueling a resurgence in American industry. Wages for blue-collar workers are rising at the fastest rate in 6 decades. And the One Big Beautiful Bill is delivering historic tax cuts for working families. Happy Labor Day and welcome to the golden age of the American worker.
And as President Trump is about to make an announcement, stay tuned live for us, scheduled 5 minutes from now. Lots going on over the weekend, some good, some sad. We know it's this back and forth between Chicago and Illinois leadership and this attempt by a Chicago mayor to block federal authorities. We'll see what is detailed in that. President Trump very vocal on Truth Social about the 8 deaths, 57 injuries by gun violence in the city of Chicago over Labor Day weekend, a very sad effect. Also, Rudy Giuliani, America's mayor to win that Medal of Freedom granted by President Trump, suffering a broken back in a terrible car accident in Manchester, New Hampshire. So our prayers with America's mayor, in addition to Eastern Afghanistan suffering roughly 1,400 deaths and countless other injuries thus far due to a 6.0 magnitude earthquake, if not stronger, with recent reports. So our thoughts and prayers with the Afghanistan people to overcome that. Very mountainous region. You never want to see anything like that happening. In addition to the Chinese Communist threat continues against our naval Pacific fleet with the YJ-17 missile being aboard their nuclear subs. We know they overfished in the Alaskan waters during the Otto Penn administration, but we're watching all of those stories and those developments as President Trump is set to make an announcement right here at the top of the hour. And we'll do one more quick commercial break in order to get sponsors in. And at the turn of that, ideally we'll have President Trump to make this announcement live for you here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. So don't change that dial. Stick with us here on the right side of history.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk. from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door. Welcome back to RSBN Live Desk. I'm Robert McNeely, right at 2 o'clock. So good afternoon, America, and good morning to those on the Golden Coast out west. Thanks for tuning in for a presidential announcement by the 45th and 47th Commander-in-Chief just moments from now. Flu season is upon us now that the Labor Day weekend has struck, and I know my friends with kids especially, sometimes I don't get to see them as often as I'd like because they get the sniffles running around through the house with their little loved ones who go off to school and then always bring back those bacterial and viral infections at times. So there's a great way to reach out and make sure your family's all stocked up and safe for the flu season. And that is allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. It's ivermectin to antibiotics and antivirals, antibacterials, in fact, along with NAD+, methylene blue to mebendazole, and they've got it all. I mean, quite frankly, 200 plus essential medications, emergency medical kits, weight loss pills, also biohacking products that were detailed by Michael Kunzer last week, and we'll continue to dive into those for your viewing pleasure this week. And having the right meds on hand. It's very simple. It's easy as 1, 2, 3, and maybe even do-re-mi. So scan that QR code right there. It's 10% off, code RSBN10 that you're used to. Allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. It's so simple. There's no red tape. There's no bureaucracy, no hassle. Just a licensed doctor, on the other hand, to write that pharmaceutical note for you. So these pharmacies or pharmaceutical medications needed with that note, but doctors, nurses, pharmacists all ready to help you at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Again, you can scan that QR code now. Get 10% off with code RSBN10. It is the go-to family pharmacy online. It's All Family Pharmacy, working overtime for you. And once you order, you'll get these life-saving medications in 2 to 3 days, so it's nice and fast. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Once your health is in line and you have this all ready to go for your fall trip or even just having it stocked in the medicine cabinet, why not check the 401k, the savings, the retirement, and your wealth and preservation? Get the complimentary Gold Guide, the presidential Gold Guide, in fact, with that handsome gentleman on the front, the 45th and 47th Commander-in-Chief, through Monetary Gold, the best in the business. Call now. Don't delay. Call today, 800-476-7790. That is 800-476-7790. Ask how to eliminate those IRA fees for life. It's RSBN for the Gold, RSBN4thegold.com. 800-476-7790. Your go-to for all things gold and silver, the hot commodities that have stood the test of time for roughly 5,000 or so years in the whole of human history. And again, complimentary. You can just watch and see what options might work best for you. It's no obligation. RSBN4thegold.com, 800-476-7790. Thank you to Monetary Gold for sponsoring the right side of history. We are awaiting President Trump to make an announcement soon, so stick with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, your live desk. In fact, your go-to live desk. You might ask, what is that? Well, it's yours truly, your humble correspondent, talking about the issues of the day and then tossing to those elements that truly matter to you, the American people, because we do not edit the speeches. We do not edit the press conferences or the hearings. We take them right there live to you. And since we're streaming, You could scrub that all back in case you missed a broadcast across all of your favorite social media platforms, whether it be X to Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, and countless others that are streaming the new media. And think just a few short years ago of President Trump being thrown off of Facebook, of then Twitter, and now some of these tech CEOs begging to be in the room with President Trump because they either have been red-pilled or realize that more speech is good speech, that more people at the table will lead to a more perfect union. And I think of the roller coaster of mandates where President Trump wants answers to what's taken place at the CDC and specifically with COVID research and mandates. And did Operation Warp Speed work for some? Did it not work for others? He wants those clear answers. Because just to rewind a few years of what took place, and it's rather extraordinary to think about, from you, like others, might have lost a dream job or what you were doing because of mandates, because of the question of bodily autonomy. This administration fighting back with that, stating that this military fighting force should come back if they were thrown away because of that and receive that back pay that was prevented by the Autopen administration, or simply having that meritocracy, that fighting readiness in order to do what they set out to do, and that's protect the homeland from all threats, foreign and domestic. So as we await President Trump to make that announcement, we know that this Labor Day weekend was one of the lowest gas prices in years, with that average hovering around that $3.16 mark. Down here in the Southeast, a regular gallon of gas roughly hovering around that $2.68 to $2.72, somewhere in that ballpark. Slightly more in the big cities. But we hope that you were able to have that relief on the road, whether by plane, train, or automobile, to enjoy the dog days of summer with those you love, whether it's friends or family from coast to coast, and that you're back at it today to make this economic engine known as the United States go round and round and round. We know that with the tariffs President Trump has implemented in the new negotiation and trade deals, $15 trillion coming into the United States as a result of his use of tariffs and his use of negotiating new trade policies. So as we await President Trump to make that announcement, what looks like from the White House today, and it could be on a plethora of different topics. We know that the Panikins over the weekend were making up some really rather crazy statements, but we'll see what the President of the United States has to say in a time where really his administration is not only on time and under budget, but really ahead of what they've been working on, with targets right now in the peaceful and patriotic crosshairs, ending this pandemic of violence throughout our major cities. And whether it's been Chicago, Illinois, to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and New York City to Los Angeles, California, and really everywhere in between, it's common sense. The vice president laid it out very well in the Oval Office with President Trump and cabinet members on hand, that there's this strange obsession with how things are gone about by Democrat mayors and governors, or they're simply more concerned about being anti-Trump than rather keep their cities and their states safe. Because if there's one thing that government should last and exist for, it's the general posterity. And it's the welfare of the United States as a whole. And from the federal government, its view, defending it militarily. Or locally, you go to state and local police. And you have some federal partners as well. But as we approach the September 11th anniversary, the 24th anniversary, you have to think about those things. When radios weren't dialoguing or working between departments, when there was these rivalries not known to the public, but that communication at times not happening between the NYPD, the FDNY, going up to the FBI for various reasons. And we can't ever repeat anything like that again here on the homeland. And regardless of zip code, this is what Americans truly do deserve. It's that freedom, that peace at night to sleep their head on their pillow and know that there's a bright new dawn ahead in America, celebrating this golden era. And that they can have that equal school choice, whether they're in Chicago, Illinois, to Topeka, Kansas, and really everywhere in between, whether it's the homeschooling, to a private education, to a public education, that parents know that the next generation has the opportunity to do better, to live in a more prosperous and free way than they did. I mean, it's a hope of every parent, is it not? To see their children thrive in the land of the free and the home of the brave, and to do better than they did. But sadly, you have a major party right now that seems to not want that for one reason or the other. They seem to be on the 20% side of the 80-20 issues, or as President Trump puts it, in many cases, it gets to 93-7 or even 97-3. And you take the thing of men and women's sports. Who wants, especially parents of female athletes, who wants a man in their daughter's locker room? I'm sure that some of the adolescent minors think it's a good tactic and a good way to sneak on in. We've seen that in many cases. We saw in Virginia where there was a rape case that the school withheld that information from the parent after a transgender athlete, a man, went into the female locker room. And they know right from wrong at that point, if they're older teenagers. The age of reason is somewhere around 7 or 8. And granted, as a 37-year-old male, I'm still working on that voice of reason. A great show on Thursday nights, by the way, at 6 o'clock if you'd like to tune in. But my goodness gracious, I mean, that's just, some things should unite all of us. And I think Republican and Democrat voters alike around this country, I'm just going to go out on a limb, especially those who are parents, believe that their children should be safe, especially from the mental, physical, and emotional abuse that could be on full display with boys going into the girls' locker rooms, or even vice versa. It's simply wrong. And it's not for the state to implement its bizarre views upon children. And sadly, we see this not far from Chicago either, Naperville, Illinois, a great place to live. That school board, 203. We'd love to talk to some of the members of that school board who continue to advocate for such horrendous, disgusting, and quite frankly, brain-dead policies. It's extraordinary to me that anyone would complain that the federal government has gotten too involved in keeping transgender athletes out of the sport that is not of their biological sex. It's simply a safety issue. And we've seen that with volleyball players. We've seen it with boxing in the Olympics. People losing their ability to even compete because it's simply a fact that men are generally stronger than women, physically speaking. And we all have our God-given gifts, and they should be honored in that tradition. And I remember on the campaign trail, that video that President Trump would share of the United States Navy and the drag hour that they were displaying. I mean, it's incredible to me that they would have tolerated that at the Pentagon. But we here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, thankful for the Bobby and Pete Challenge, and for people like Secretary Kennedy, Secretary Hegseth, who are bringing back that infusion of true masculinity into the United States military and to the whole of this government response to make America healthy again. It was a vision dating back to President John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the concern he had about American youth when he was president, and the rise of diabetes to the rise of childhood obesity. And we now know that that was a pandemic in its own right with the fat-free craze of the 1990s and the infusion of chemicals into our food system. But now we've had this renaissance in this golden era. You have places like Steak and Shake that on a daily basis are trolling great institutions like Chick-fil-A, but they use canola oil. They use seed oils for their food. It's just a fact of the matter. Whereas Steak and Shake is choosing to cook with all beef tallow, Wagyu beef tallow, grass-fed, and have chosen to provide a healthy quality product for the customer. So when you go out, you have a little bit more peace of mind when you have that classic diner fast food burger, something that all American outlets used to do, but changed over time with the powers that be and the introduction of synthetic oils into our food supply. And I mean, I go back a decade. I never thought that we'd be facing times such as this, but it's good to see that awareness once again in the United States of America as we approach 2:15 on the East Coast. It's 11:15 on the West Coast. And welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. If you're just tuning in, we've been on for over a couple of hours now dissecting the news and talking about the future of this great country and the successes that have led up to a Labor Day weekend that have featured some of the lowest egg prices and gasoline prices in roughly 4 years, since July of 2021. And Mr. Director, that, again, I'd like to thank our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, because they are the ones who are helping us get this message out to the American people, the truth at hand. Kalshi.com/RSBN. If you're unfamiliar, a great way to trade and bet on the most important issues and questions facing the United States of America. Who will win the Nobel Peace Prize? Donald Trump, 45th and 47th Commander-in-Chief, the Peace Through Strength candidate, the one who is really making a difference in conflicts from Israel to Iran, ending the 12 days war, Cambodia to Thailand, Azerbaijan to Armenia, and Pakistan to India to Congo and Rwanda. And now the Korean Peninsula, as he's laser focused on Russia and Ukraine. Will Zelensky meet with Putin before January? Will it be bilateral or trilateral? Both the Russian and Ukrainian leaders asking President Trump to be on hand if necessary. President Trump said, yes, I will make myself available. It's not good for my health, but it's good for the peace of the world, because he's been the most consistent. I want the killing to stop, has been where President Trump stood on this. Kalshi.com/RSBN. Trade on anything. Scan the QR code now. And you can also answer questions as we get into the last month of baseball here. I know we're excited for football, but baseball, America's classic, still ongoing. Will those Los Angeles Dodgers defend their championship just as the Florida Panthers did in hockey with the Stanley Cup? So if it's music, it's sports, it's culture, if it's America, it's Kalshi.com/RSBN. Scan that QR code now for all of those big bets and trades. And angelpaste.com, you see me use the original Miracle Cream, vitamin B infused, non-GMO, no chemicals. There's also the orange option for a vitamin C boost as we are in flu season. And then there's also a facial spray and a natural mosquito repellent, as those buggers might be holding on just a little bit longer in the last few official days and couple weeks of summer until September 22nd when fall begins. Experience the miracle today. Angelpaste.com out of Spring, Texas. They're Christians. They hire veterans. They're all around great people. We love them here at the network. And guys, I'm telling you, there's some good products there, so don't be afraid to use it. I understand you can still be handy, but it's not that, the ladies like, whether it's the first date or the 50th wedding anniversary, that you go out there and you're ready for the date. So there's no excuse to not be prepared, to not be on time, to not be ready. And angelpaste.com can help allow you to paint the town red. So experience the miracle there today, angelpaste.com. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history as we are live on air from Studio B as Studio A continues its renovations. I think you will like what you see. It'll be exciting to have both beautiful studios for nonstop content with your go-to live desk right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. And if there's a story that you wish us to highlight, you're always welcome to write in feedback@rsbn.tv. If you wish to opine, that is feedback@rsbn.tv. We read it all, the good, the bad, the ugly, and we love your feedback as we ask that you like, share, and subscribe, and tell your friends about this go-to live desk, which does it unlike anyone else. We bring you to the full live speeches, the full press conferences, and the full hearings, as we will be experiencing that today with President Trump at the White House to make an announcement. We'll see what that is, a number of different topics over the Labor Day weekend, and we hope that he had some nice R&R himself at Bedminster, also enjoying some of the Army game for football back up in the Northeast United States and in New Jersey to enjoy that beautiful golf course at Bedminster and that lovely club in the dog days of summer. And we sincerely hope you've had some time as well for some R&R with friends and family. Yours truly finished out his fantasy football lineup. I limit myself to 3 leagues, and I look forward to taking home the trophy in all 3 because I hate to lose. It is something that's part of my ethos and in all fun and games, but it's going to be, I think, a fun fall football season, something that brings together friends and family around the fireplace and around the tube to enjoy the modern version of the Roman Coliseum, the gladiators that are in the National Football League and in college who can show us what it's like to go into battle and to bring that traditional masculinity back into the culture. And something you're seeing throughout the government as well, with winning across the board. And now President Trump laser focused on ending the violence that we sadly have seen recently in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Chicago, Illinois. And with the numbers, that's the sad fact is that at times you cannot compare apples to oranges, but you have a situation in Minnesota which will be considered a mass shooting. And I'm not saying it should or should not, but most of the legacy is going to not talk about what took place in Chicago, Illinois. And both are tragedies, but with the warm weather and even dating back to Mayor Daley, who was very pro-police in the 1990s, and prior to that, even through the early 2000s, you would have the spike in crime during the Labor Day weekend. And it's left 8 dead, 57 wounded, and President Trump really calling out Mayor Brandon Johnson, who signed an executive order authorizing his police not to work with National Guard or any federal authority in case that does happen. And you have the residents who are speaking to countless networks, even those legacy items, saying that this mayor does not back up the police. It's always talking about housing and democracy. There's a certain morning show where he could not even be in line with a very liberal commentator about police sizing and the units and community policing, something that was eliminated after Lori Lightfoot's tenure. And then she went off to Harvard, I guess, to teach a class about being a visiting lecturer on how you destroy a city from within. Her and Brandon Johnson, perhaps the 2 worst mayors the city of Chicago has ever seen. And Karen Bass is not much better in Los Angeles, California. And nor is the hair gel model himself, Governor Gavin Newsom, and Mr. J.B. Pritzker out of Illinois, both failing their residents. And you see a whole different story with President Trump using the home rule and authorizing National Guard to clean up the city. And now I still believe, I haven't seen any reports regarding any recent homicides, but that's either under 5 or 0. It's completely changed. Over 83% reduction in carjacking alone, let alone just violent crime across the entire city. And those we speak to on a regular basis and our fun guests and friends, whether in the new media or those who do work within the Beltway, noting that it's nice to actually go out to dinner and enjoy ourselves in the Virginia metro area, in Washington, D.C., and Maryland as well, because it is such a beautiful place to see, to enjoy the history, to enjoy the museums, to enjoy the world-class food, and some of the best chefs you will see in the entire world making home right there in Washington, D.C. And our federal city should be just that, a showcase of everything that is great about America. So that really being highlighted in this administration, in addition to ending the violence in Russia and Ukraine with the peace terms that were seemingly coming about from the Anchorage, Alaska Peace Summit with President Trump and also with President Vladimir Putin of Russia, then leading to just days later in the White House, European leaders, including President Zelensky of the Ukraine, coming to the table to talk to President Trump about all of the success that has happened, but also where that needs to continue moving forward. A possible bilateral meeting between Mr. Putin and Mr. Zelensky, or perhaps the trilateral, both leaders asking President Trump to make himself available if necessary, and seemingly the European leaders from Germany, Italy, France, the UK, the European Union, Finland, as well as Germany, NATO, and again, the European Union as a whole, all asking that President Trump continue with his help and negotiation skills. And really, as he said, the ball is in the court of mostly the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, and that of Vladimir Zelensky, the leader in Ukraine. We'll watch that as it all unfolds. And again, on Kalshi.com/RSBN, you can answer those trades, those questions, those bets regarding the future of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And we know that 15 lives were lost in Kiev on a Russian offensive after those meetings. We hope and pray that peace is met there as employment going in the right direction here in the country, inflation going down, 15 trillion invested in the United States, but the Chinese Communist Party not letting up with the YJ-17 missile being aboard their fleet to, for lack of a better term, intimidate the U.S. Navy and our Pacific Fleet. I know that they won't succeed in that, as we have the most deadly fighting force, the most surprising fighting force in all of American history. People know now a B-2 bomber can go undetected into a country like Iran, strike those nuclear facilities, and get out in really a window of 36 plus hours from a base in Missouri all the way to right outside of Tehran. So the technology is there, and it was on full display for the Flag Day celebration, the military parade that we were on hand for in the nation's capital back on June 14th. Can you believe how quick this entire year has gone by? It's almost hard to believe how quickly it has just flown by as we enjoy covering all of this for you, whether it's inside or outside of the Beltway. We hope that you're making Right Side Broadcasting Network your go-to live desk and telling your friends about it all around the world. And it's always great to hear from friends around the world who might be watching in all different time zones as we cover the things that are America first right here at this network and within your federal city and outside in the Beltway. Well, it's getting close to the bottom of the hour as we wait President Trump to make an announcement. It was scheduled for 2 o'clock on the East Coast. So good afternoon, America. Still lingering on the West Coast. Good morning to you out on the Golden Coast. If you're just tuning in to what will be remarks from the President of the United States making an announcement, let's get another quick sponsor hit and take a quick commercial break. Stick with us here. Don't change that dial. We're on the right side of history. We'll be back with you momentarily.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door. And welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network live at 2:30. I'm Robert McNeely. Always a joy to be with you at the live desk on a bright, sunshiny day in the nation's capital. In case you missed it, we've played the video over the course of the 2.5 hours being on air today. President Trump spent a lifetime building dreams, this according to the White House, and beating the odds to his path to the presidency. And it's a unique history because most of our presidents, especially in recent times, it's been governors, it's been senators, those in the public limelight. Not that this gentleman was not. Of course, he was with The Apprentice, and even before that reality show that gave an inside look at his many businesses within the Trump organization, a company he built relatively from scratch, even though he learned from the best from the Wharton School of Finance at UPenn, to his father, who built middle to low-level income housing throughout the boroughs of New York City. This gentleman had that vision as a child to take on Manhattan, to learn from the lessons of his late brother, Fred Trump, who lost his life to alcoholism at 42. The man has not had a drink. He's never had an urge to have that drink, rather being focused on building skyscrapers and being involved in hospitality in the golf world, and someone who made a staple by putting his name on buildings long before anyone said that was normalized or kosher to do. But he's beat the odds between fake impeachments to assassination attempts, the lawfare, citizen president. And we've had other greats like that, great generals, when you think of people like George Washington to Andrew Jackson to Dwight D. Eisenhower, all in that military lineage, among many others, Zachary Tyler, who served at the highest echelons and in the greatest battles that this country has ever seen. And in some cases, maybe would have gone different directions had they not been at the helm and command of their cavalries. But in an inspirational social media video, President Trump detailed those 11 life-changing lessons as he told the class of 2025 at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa just what to look towards as a young person and how to capture the momentum that you have. It's a university where legends are made, and it was an honor to watch as all those students stood as President Trump spoke at their commencement. What an honor and a privilege as they went out into their next phases of life. So number one, of the 11 life-changing lessons from President Trump, you're never too young to do something great. Number two, you have to love what you do. 3 is to think big. 4, work hard. 5, don't lose your momentum. And that was a point in the speech as we were there covering it live, how he just said, how I envy your youth. And as someone looking back on a lifetime of success, a lifetime of lessons, I'm sure it was quite a sight for him to see and inspire the future leaders of this great country. To change the world, dare to be an outsider. Also, trust your instincts. Believe in the American dream. Think of yourself as a winner. And this has been almost a pandemic in itself. And I could tell you, even from being in the millennial generation, this is something when I graduated, I noticed something very strange, how people seem to be down on themselves going right out the gate when everything seemed to be going well for them, especially, again, the advantage of their youth. Be an original, and ultimately, number 11, never give up. And it's something that I take to heart greatly, having watched this man in action, how President Trump has directly and indirectly affected my own career in such a positive way, and different partnerships to simply covering his administration, to my work at Truth Social, and fighting back, never accepting the status quo or a big state, deep state, globalist bureaucracy that sought to silence him. The exact same thing that's happening to Mr. Bolsonaro in Brazil right now with judges and the lawfare and their equivalent of district attorneys, their judiciary being turned on a man who simply wants to serve his country and put Brazil first. The same thing happened to President Donald Trump right here in America. And if Watergate bothered your conscience, I'm not saying it should have or it should, but this Russia gate, Crossfire Hurricane, the hoax of all hoaxes, the Steele dossier to Barack Hussein Obama, and the question of immunity post-presidency when he still concealed the information after receiving the briefing. We know this happened in the Oval Office, that Hillary Clinton's campaign was spying on that of President Donald Trump before he was president. All brought to you by James Comey and John Clapper and these countless other officials that really tried to ruin people's lives in the process, including an illustrious general, Michael Flynn, a Democrat, who they tried to throw under the bus before the new administration took office. Why did they raid Mar-a-Lago? Were they looking for something? Perhaps a certain document? It's amazing what we know now over the course of these last several years, this last decade. I can tell you for myself, going back an entire decade, although I was so excited about the Trump candidacy, did I really think things were as bad as they were made out to be? I saw things that were strange for sure, being on the college campuses and the somewhat hostility towards freedom of speech. But what we know now, this man, this administration, pulling back that curtain, what Tulsi Gabbard is doing at the Department of National Intelligence to declassify really the business of the American people so that they know just what the heck their duly elected government is doing, and that bureaucrats do not usurp the authority of Article 1 in the Congress, Article 2 in the executive branch, and really ultimately Article 3 in the judiciary as well. And that's why we exist here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, not just to bring you the rallies as we did 10 years ago and Joe Seal's extraordinary vision, because people weren't covering President Trump right out the gate, thinking that this was a joke of a candidacy. They really didn't know what they were talking about. But now to bring you this live desk of unbridled access to speeches, press conferences, and hearings, and soon you'll hear from, at some point today, the Commander-in-Chief, the 45th and 47th President Donald Trump, to make an announcement regarding a number of different items in the news over the last week or so. So we'll stay tuned for that. Scheduled at 2 o'clock Eastern. It's now 2:36 on the East Coast, and that's getting close to the high noon mark on the West Coast. So good afternoon, America. It's Robert McNeely. It's a joy to be with you today on the live desk that is making a difference for all Americans. And again, if you wish to opine, write to us at feedback@rsbn.tv to receive all of that important information about what's happening inside and outside of the Beltway. And we'd love to know what's happening in your neck of the woods, as good to get all of that information so we could bring light to the darkness. That's our goal here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. As we like to thank our sponsors here at the right side of history, covepure.com/RSBN. Look at that fine-looking machine that could sit right there at your countertop. I'm sure you have a coffee machine that looks very similar to that. covepure.com/RSBN. Get $200 off. Drink pure and live pure. A great way to keep yourself healthy. Make America healthy again, as this Clearwater technology making a massive difference. So it's Utah, Florida. They're passing legislation to get fluoride out of the water. But this company, the Clearwater technology, getting rid of 99.9% of impurities out of your drinking water. Here's something to realize. When people take medications, their body doesn't fully absorb it. And not to be gross, I hope you haven't just eaten lunch, but sometimes these things get flushed out and down the toilet and into the water system because the water filtration units, the systems, those treatment plants, they're terrible at filtering out leftover pharmaceuticals, antibiotics, antidepressants, and even more like hormone disruptors from birth control. So what are you to do? Well, it's getting this Clearwater technology, this reverse osmosis system at covepure.com/RSBN for $200 off right now. And luckily, Cove Pure is lab certified to do what I just mentioned, remove 99.9% of the impurities and the pharmaceutical drugs, the PFAs, and the agricultural runoff that can happen in our drinking water. You actually want to drink more water. It tastes better. You can get it in all different temperatures, in fact. You can select hot, cold, or warm. See the lovely lady there in the video doing just that. So drink pure, live pure. It's covepure.com/RSBN. Scan that QR code now. And flu season is here, sadly. It's the unofficial end to summertime with the fall beginning. But with all new beginnings comes a time for that medicine cabinet to be fully stocked. It's ivermectin, it's antibiotics, antivirals, emergency medical kits, maintenance meds, the biohacking products, weight loss systems as well. Scan the QR code now for 10% off, code RSBN10. It's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Have the meds right on your hands. Cutting edge, things like methylene blue to NAD+, and mebendazole, among many others. Simple, fast, reliable. I'm telling you, they have a full lineup of life-saving medications for your medicine cabinet or for when you take this life-saving medication on the road for your perhaps fall foliage lineup in New England or the upper Midwest. Great medications to have on hand with you. Simple, fast, reliable. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Scan that QR code now for RSBN10, RSBN10, as we will likely have somewhat of a programming note here as President Trump makes an announcement. We are awaiting that. We'll take that there live to you. It's 2:40 right now, but there is currently a House GOP press conference that we can tap into to see what Congress is up to as they return to Washington, D.C. from their August recess. We'll take you there now to Washington, D.C.
Here in Washington, D.C. for the last couple of years. And from my time as a federal prosecutor, I know some of the federal agents who have been called to serve in Washington as part of the president's initiative. And since their arrival, I have been astounded as I have stayed in touch with them at the amount of contraband, the number of dangerous people, whether it's drugs, whether it's gangs, whether it's illegal firearms, whether it's human trafficking, whether it's South American cartels, you name it, it is right here in Washington, D.C. The soft on crime policies of the Democrats has unfortunately allowed crime to spiral out of control, whether in D.C. or elsewhere around the country. Unfortunately, we are seeing the Democratic Party and the far left portions of this country protect the criminals rather than backing law enforcement. We've seen city after city spiral out of control and decay right in front of our eyes, including Washington, D.C. I applaud the president for saying the simple truth. It does not have to be this way. It does not have to be this way. And regardless of who you are, when you come to Washington, it's a safe city now. Businesses are thankful. Families are thankful. Citizens, tourists, we are all thankful. It's time to stop turning a blind eye for crime wherever it is. Wherever it is, we must investigate, we must prosecute, and we must protect the law-abiding citizens of this country. Thank you, and with that, I turn it over to Representative Laurel Lee.
Good afternoon. I'm Laurel Lee from Florida's 15th Congressional District, and I want to thank my colleagues on the Republican Study Committee for their leadership on this issue, particularly Representative Hageman and Representative Pfluger. So Washington, D.C., our capital city, is the seat of our democracy and a symbol of freedom around the world. But for too long, it has also been a city that is plagued by violent crime, failed policies, and leadership that refuses to take responsibility for public safety. That is why I am proud to support President Trump and my colleagues who are here today in our efforts to return order and law to Washington, D.C. Together, we will advance common sense proposals to restore order, to put victims first, to hold violent criminals accountable, and to stop the revolving door of repeat offenders who cycle back onto the streets. In just the past 2 weeks since President Trump stepped in, we have already seen the dramatic difference that decisive action takes. Carjackings are down, violent crime is trending down, federal coordination has strengthened detention and prosecution. And for the first time in a long while, the people of D.C. are beginning to feel safer in their own neighborhoods. That progress proves a simple truth. When you enforce the law, when you keep dangerous criminals off the streets, when you prioritize the safety of families, and when you allow law enforcement officers and prosecutors to do their jobs, you get results. The American people deserve a capital city that reflects the very best of this country, not one that turns a blind eye to lawlessness. Republicans are committed to ensuring that D.C. is safe, secure, and accountable for years to come, and we will not stop until that promise is fulfilled. I now turn it over to my colleague, Representative Fedorchak.
Thank you, Laurel. Thank you, Representative Hageman, Pfluger, for your leadership on this really important issue. I'm Julie Fedorchak. I am a representative from North Dakota, the lone member from North Dakota. As my colleagues have said, crime in our nation's capital is out of control. If D.C. were a state, it would have the highest homicide rate in the country, and already this year nearly 1,600 violent crimes have been reported. I agree with the people here. D.C. is a beautiful city. It's an amazing city, and it's the best capital in the world. But it isn't safe. We all know this. In fact, I felt this myself recently in a small way, but I want to share the story. I was walking down the street in July near my apartment in Navy Yard, not very far from home, and I felt something hard hit me in the back of my head. It was in broad daylight. I was very startled. I was on the phone at the time, and just as that happened, a pack of juveniles came rushing by on their bikes, and I turned to look around and see what had happened, and a large, hard plastic object had been thrown directly at my head. Now, that was a minor incident. I wasn't harmed. But the young people who did it with reckless abandon and with zero fear of consequences. They gathered in a circle not far from me after that and sat there and laughed. And it's just an example of how crime is out of control in this city and there aren't any consequences. America is the greatest country in the world. There's no reason why our capital should have a violent crime rate higher than some of the most dangerous places in the world. Just as President Trump restored order at our southern border by enforcing the laws on the books, he is stepping in now to help make D.C. safe again. Many of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle have falsely claimed that D.C. crime stats are at a 30-year low. But let's remember that crime is not just about statistics. It's about people. It's about the mother who sent her child here to intern in one of our offices this summer, never to see him again. It's about all the families who suffer from crime in this very city. It's about the Metropolitan Police Union, who agrees.
Well, thank you very much. It's a very important day and an important announcement with great friends of mine. I think I can say this group is every one of them. I rate a 10. I can't always say that, even if they're Republicans, and these are Republicans, great Republicans. I want to thank you all for being here for this important announcement, 7 years in the making. As you know, this has been going on for a long period of time, and I am thrilled to report that the U.S. Space Command headquarters will move to the beautiful locale of a place called Huntsville, Alabama, forever to be known from this point forward as Rocket City. Okay, so Huntsville, Alabama, we love Alabama. I only won it by about 47 points. I don't think that influenced my decision, though, right? That didn't, right? But we had a lot of competition for this, and Alabama's getting it, Huntsville in particular. So congratulations, everybody. Katie, congratulations. This will result in more than 30,000 Alabama jobs, and probably much more than that, and hundreds of millions of dollars of investment, and that's billions, because it can't be millions, it's billions and billions of dollars. Most importantly, this decision will help America defend and dominate the high frontier, as they call it. I want to thank Secretary Pete Hegseth. He's doing a fantastic job. And Secretary of the Air Force Troy Mink. Troy, thank you very much. Great job you're doing, Troy. This is such a big deal. This is one that everybody wanted to know. What are you doing? I also want to thank Senators Katie Britt, and I want to give my condolences. Your grandmother, her grandmother just passed away. She was 100, right?
100, and she loved you, Mr. President.
Well, and she was very proud of you.
Thank you very much.
Very, very proud of you. So thank you, Katie.
Wonderful woman.
She must have been. To produce you indirectly, I can tell you she had to be. Tommy Tuberville, who's a great coach. And I won't say anything about what happened with Alabama football this weekend.
Let's leave that out.
But you're not used to that, right? You're not used to that. But Tommy, Auburn won, that's right. They did. So you're happy. Tommy's been a great senator, as you know, and a fantastic guy all around. He was also a tremendous coach. House Armed Services Committee Chair Mike Rogers. Thank you, Mike. Where's Mike? Mike, thank you very much. Doing great, Mike. Representatives Barry Moore, all great friends, Robert Adderholt, Gary Palmer, and Dale Strong. Thank you all very much, fellas. Appreciate it. In my first term, I created a thing called Space Force, so important. You know, we were losing the race in space very badly to China and to Russia, and now we're far and away #1 in space, and reestablished Space Com with a mission to protect American space assets and detect any threat to our homeland. We initially selected Huntsville for the SpaceCom headquarters, yet those plans were wrongfully obstructed by the Biden administration. And as you know, they moved them to a different locale. And today we're moving forward with what we want to do and the place that we want to have this. And this will be there for hopefully hundreds of years. That's where it's going to be. I will say I want to thank Colorado. The problem I have with Colorado, one of the big problems, they do mail-in voting. They went to all mail-in voting. So they have automatically crooked elections. And we can't have that. When a state is for mail-in voting, that means they want dishonest elections, because that's what that means. So that played a big factor also. In Huntsville, SpaceCom will play a key role in building the Golden Dome, as you know. That's going to be a big thing. Everybody wants to be a participant in it. Missile Defense Shield, we're going to be having a Golden Dome that the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. The finest, the best. And by the way, Canada called. They want to be a part of it, and that'll be great. But Canada wants very much to be included in that, and we're going to work something out with them, I hope. It will also ensure that our technological capabilities, of which we're way ahead of anybody else, there's nobody close, remain unmatched long into the future. So I'd like to ask Secretary Hegseth to say a few words. He was very much a part of it. And really, everybody behind me was. Every one of these people would call me and lobby me. I said, Katie, I don't want to talk to you anymore. I know what you want. She said, that's right, sir. That's what I want. And they got their way. So I just want to congratulate. These are really special people. They're politicians in many ways, but they're great patriots, I think even more so than politicians. So they fought very hard to get it, and it's an honor to give it to Huntsville. Pete, say a few words, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. As usual, right place, right time, for the right reason. In your first administration, you established the Space Force at a time when we knew we had to be looking to that domain of space. You also reestablished SpaceCom to ensure that priority was put in place, and you, through the Air Force, independently identified that Huntsville, Alabama was the right place to put it. For other reasons, in the next administration under Biden, they decided to move it somewhere else. Well, during that time, the DoD Inspector General, the Government Affairs Office, they did their own assessments, and where did they say SpaceCom should go? Huntsville, Alabama. So what you're doing today, Mr. President, is restoring it to precisely where it should be based on what the Space Force, the Air Force, your leadership believes will give us strategic advantage in the future. That is Huntsville, Alabama. We are way ahead in space, but this will ensure we stay leaps and bounds ahead because that's the most important domain. Whoever controls the skies will control the future of warfare. And Mr. President, today you're ensuring that happens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Katie, would you like to say something?
Mr. President, we are grateful for your leadership on this and restoring Space Command to its rightful home in Huntsville, Alabama. This delegation has worked together, both chambers, both parties, to make sure that Huntsville was the place that Space Command called home. As was mentioned, obviously the Biden administration chose to make this political. What we want to do is put the safety and security of Americans first. We want to make sure that our warfighter is put first, and we want to make sure that America continues to lead. And today, Mr. President, you've allowed that to happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tommy, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. This is a great day for our country, not just for our state of Alabama. We need help in our military. We need to catch up. And as Secretary has said, we're not behind in space, but we know where we're at, and we need to expound on that. Now, this move will save the taxpayers $480 million. It's not going to cost more. It's going to cut $480 million. We have the plans intact. It'll be behind a secure wall in Huntsville, Alabama, at Redstone Arsenal. We have 40,000 people there. We have the FBI there. We have missile defense there. We have NASA, Blue Origin, and SpaceX. It is the perfect place for Space Command. I would tell you today, and I've spoke with the President for the last 3 or 4 years about this, if I thought it needed to go somewhere else because I understand the security of our country, I'd be for that. But the best place for Space Command is Huntsville, Alabama, because what we have and what it means to this country is going to be so important. So thank you, Mr. President, for this, and we look forward to building a huge Space Command and having the Donald J. Trump Space Command Center in Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hear, hear. JD, would you like to say something?
Sure. Well, Mr. President, thank you. I'll be very brief here. I lobbied the president hard to put it in Ohio, but he said these people behind us, these Alabamas, are just too powerful and too persuasive. And so it's in Alabama, but as Tommy said, this is exactly the right place for Space Force and Space Command. I think Americans ought to appreciate the fact that you can't win the battle of the future unless you control the skies. The cyber security, the communications, the entire infrastructure of the battle in the 21st century will be in space. So it was a visionary move in the first administration for the president to set up Space Force, and I think an equally visionary move to make sure that Space Force is right where it should be in Huntsville, Alabama. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, anybody want to say anything? Would you like to say?
Mr. President, another promise made, another promise kept. You think about it, Redstone Arsenal is critical to national security. The president said when you were the 45th president, let's do what's right for national security. And today, that's exactly what we're doing. It's not because of this or that. It's because it's right for national security. You think of the 21 categories that were evaluated to determine what was best for national security. All indicators pointed back to Huntsville, Alabama, and Redstone Arsenal. We have the right people at the right place at the right time. Mr. President, on behalf of the people of the 5th Congressional District and all of Alabama, thank you for keeping your word. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Anybody?
Let me just say, Mr. President, I want to say thank you. And thank you for doing this because it was the right thing to do. When they looked at all the numbers, Huntsville was the place to go, and like you say, it was unfortunately pulled out, but you made it right. So I want to just say thank you again for a grateful nation, and to the state of Alabama, we're very grateful. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Throughout history, militaries has always understood that whoever could hold the high ground held the advantage. Space is the ultimate high ground. And what we're doing with moving the Space Command to Huntsville is absolutely critical to our maintaining dominance in that sphere. And it goes hand in hand with what we're trying to do with the Golden Dome and missile defense to defend against anyone else who tries to enter that sphere. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. And obviously, national defense is a huge issue. And when you look at the scores, Alabama was #1. And for political reasons, it was moved out of our state. But, Mr. President, thank you for making priorities the defense and the warfighter and the safety of this nation. And in the big, beautiful bill, that Golden Dome will be built in Huntsville, Alabama, and we're grateful for that. Thank you.
Listen, as chairman of the Armed Services Committee, I care very much about what's most important for our national security. And the President held a nationwide competition to determine where we should have this command. If you all remember, at the end of that competition, where Alabama came in first, there was a lot of complaints from the other states who did not place well. He said, we'll do it over with new criteria to accommodate your concerns. Alabama came in first in that second competition. His Secretary of the Air Force reviewed the results, said it was fair, and the President named Huntsville. It was the Biden administration that decided to make it political, even though his own Secretary of the Air Force said it was a fair competition and it should be in Huntsville. So I want you to know I appreciate this President standing up and being strong and saying he's going to make this right and put it where it rightfully belongs, and that's Huntsville, Alabama.
Thank you very much. Good job. So thank you all very much. You are going to leave me alone now. You're not going to call me anymore and talk about this subject, right? You promise? They'll start something else. But I just want to congratulate you. It's a very big deal. When you come out and when you leave the room, you'll see that we just, over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat. And you'll be seeing that and you'll be reading about that. It just happened moments ago, and our great general, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who's been so incredible, including what took place in Iran, knocking out potential nuclear power for a long time to come. I think within a month they would have had it if we didn't do what we did. But he gave us a little bit of a briefing, and you'll see. And there's more where that came from. We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in for a long time. And we just, these came out of Venezuela and coming out very heavily from Venezuela. A lot of things are coming out of Venezuela. So we took it out, and you'll get to see that after this meeting is over. Do you have any questions, please? Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Somerville talked about the cost savings
Yeah.
associated with this announcement. Can you talk about the strategic benefits by having Space Force Command headquartered in Huntsville?
Well, it just works because we have so much else there. And having a central, you could call it a central command, but it really is a command station. Also, even locationally, where it is, and when you think about flying distances, if you can save a half an hour as fast as some of these planes go and things go, and even the rockets go, if you can save by having the best location. So we went out, as you know, to experts, and we had 4 different groups of experts. They all said this was the best location. I also loved it from the standpoint, I know the people of Alabama, they are great people, work hard, and there's no games, and they're very proud of it. And I would say they fought harder for it than anybody else also. A lot of states, 5 states really wanted it, but they wanted it more. And I kid you not when I say that these people, they spoke to me a lot. That's all they wanted to talk about. They didn't want to talk about the weather. They only wanted to talk about moving to this location, moving to Alabama, Huntsville in particular. So we're honored to do it. They really wanted it badly, and they got it. Peter?
President Trump, something completely different, but about a big viral social media trend over the weekend. How did you find out over the weekend that you were dead? You see that?
No.
People didn't see it for a couple days. 1.3 million user engagements as of Saturday morning about your demise.
Really? I didn't see that. You know, I have heard, it's sort of crazy, but last week I did numerous news conferences, all successful. They went very well, like this is going very well. And then
I didn't do any for 2 days, and they said there must be something wrong with him. Biden wouldn't do them for months. You wouldn't see him. And nobody ever said there was ever anything wrong with him, and we know he wasn't in the greatest of shape. No, I heard that. I get reports. Now, you knew I did an interview that lasted for about an hour and a half with somebody, and everybody saw that was on one of your competitors. I did numerous shows and also did a number of truths, long truths, and I think pretty poignant truths. No, I was very active over the weekend. They also knew I went out to visit some people at the club that I own, pretty nearby on the Potomac River. And no, I've been very active actually over the weekend. I didn't hear that one. That's pretty serious stuff. Well, it's fake news. You know, it's just it's so fake. That's why the media has so little credibility. I knew they were saying, like, is he okay? How's he feeling? What's wrong? I said, I just left. And it's also sort of a longer weekend, you know. It's Labor Day weekend, so I would say a lot of people. No, I was very active this Labor Day. I had heard that, but I didn't hear it to that extent. Go ahead, Peter.
Something else. We know that this country has a huge problem with school shootings. You've said that you're open to sending the National Guard pretty much anywhere. Would you ever consider sending an armed National Guardsman to every school?
Well, we have a big problem with school shooting, but we also have thousands and thousands of schools that run perfectly. You know, they talk about you can do things construction-wise, and that's really, I think nobody knows more about construction than me. You can build the construction doors. You can build what they call safety doors, where they lock on the outside, the inside, and every place else. Well, but if one of these lunatics happens to get through, then the police can't get in. Then they're looking for keys all over the place, and it takes them. I mean, a lot of disadvantages to doing, you know, spending billions and billions of dollars and actually making it safer in some way for some of these lunatics that we're dealing with. But I don't think so. I've thrown out the concept. We have great teachers that love our children. The parents love the children. Teachers love the children too. And if you took a small percentage of those teachers that were in the military, that were distinguished in the military, that were in the National Guard, et cetera, and you let them carry. That's something that a lot of people like. I sort of liked it. It'd have to be studied, but they're trained. They know about weapons. You can't do it with every teacher because most teachers don't know, and you know. But I always thought that would be an alternative. But it just we've had a lot of instances. Other countries have also. They have different kinds of problems than we have, but we do have. There's something going on. And it's a bad thing. Yes, please.
Have you spoken with President Putin in the past week? Have you spoken with President Putin in the past week?
Yeah, I don't want to. I have learned things that will be very interesting. I think in the next few days you'll find out.
Will there be any consequences if there isn't some type of announcement of a meeting with President Putin and President Zelensky?
Yeah,
and what could those consequences be?
We're going to see what happens. We're going to see what they do and what happens. I'm watching it very closely. Last week, they lost 7,000, between the two countries, 7,313 soldiers, to be somewhat exact, for no reason whatsoever. And they're Russian and they're Ukrainian, but, you know, they're soldiers. I want to see it end. Yeah.
Mr. President, have you decided you're definitely going to send National Guard troops to Chicago?
I didn't say when, but the answer is, look, Chicago's very interesting because I watched Pritzker get up and say about, we don't need help, we're safe. But 2 weeks ago, they had 6 people murdered, and they had 24 people hit by bullets. Last week, as you know, it was 7 people, 24 people hit, and 7 people died. And then over the last 2 days, that was the crown jewel. They had, I guess, 9 or 10 killed, and 50 hit with bullets. And you have this governor get up, who's a terrible governor. Probably he and Gavin Newsom would be probably the 2 worst and most naive. They're naive. Either they're naive or they're very untruthful. And he'll say, we don't want any protection. We don't need. So in the last 3 weeks, he's lost almost 20 people killed. There's no place in the world, including you can go to Afghanistan, you can go to places that you would think of. They don't even come close to this. Chicago is a hellhole right now. Baltimore is a hellhole right now. Parts of Los Angeles are terrible. If we didn't put out the fires, and I mean the other fires, the bullet fires, they didn't do a good job with, they should have had the water coming down, like I said. You know, we had to release the water. We had to go in and release the water to L.A. It's so badly run. But if I didn't send the National Guard into Los Angeles, I would be making an announcement today. I'd be talking about Huntsville, and I'd simultaneously be saying, by the way, the Olympics is not coming to Los Angeles. If we didn't do that, and even the sheriff, the top law enforcement person in Los Angeles said, we could not have handled it without them. So that's what he said.
Make your mind up on Chicago, though?
Well, we're going in. I didn't say when. We're going in. When you lose, look, I have an obligation. This isn't a political thing. I have an obligation. When we lose, when 20 people are killed over the last 2.5 weeks, and 75 are shot with bullets. So let me tell you a little story about a place called D.C., District of Columbia, right here where we are. It's now a safe zone. We have no crime. It's in such great shape. You can go and actually walk with your children, your wife, your husband. You can walk right down the middle of the street. You're not going to be shot, Peter. You're safe. Everyone likes you anyway. They probably wouldn't do it. But it's so dangerous. And there are people in this audience you've suffered greatly. There are people in this audience that have been mugged and hurt badly, and they don't want to talk about it. Maybe you were very brave in talking about it. You made quite an impression on a lot of people. I appreciate it. But there were other people in this room that have been hurt very badly just walking down the street in D.C. Washington, D.C. is a safe zone right now. It's a safe city. The restaurants are open. They're booming. You can't get a restaurant. New restaurants are announcing that they're going to be open. This took place in 12 days. Now it's 15 days, but 3 days ago it became what's known as a safe zone. It's a safe city. And this city was really bad, really, really bad. We took 1,600 people out, hardcore criminals that will not be coming back anytime soon. And we're very proud of it. You know, to have our nation's capital lose every week. You know, it was like years, many years, where every single week somebody was killed for many, many, many consecutive weeks. This went on for years. And then we had, last week it was announced that nobody was killed last week. And I made that announcement in front of a very distinguished leader of a country. And I'm saying proudly, ladies and gentlemen, nobody was killed in Washington, D.C. this week. He looked at me like, what's that all about? I say, yeah, we have a little bit of a crime problem. And we don't have a crime problem in Washington anymore. And the mayor has been very helpful, and the police commission has been very helpful, and it's been a great team. And I would love to have Governor Pritzker call me. I'd gain respect for him and say, we do have a problem, and we'd love you to send in the troops, because you know what? The people, they have to be protected. I saw today on one of your networks, not a friendly network, except really the opposite, I would say, very unfriendly network. And they interviewed about 12 people on this morning. Most of them were African American, they were black. And they were saying, please, please, please let the president send in. These were people from Chicago. Please, we need help. We need help. We can't walk outside. We're petrified. If the governor of Illinois would call me up, I would love to do it. Now, we're going to do it anyway. We have the right to do it because I have an obligation to protect this country. And that includes Baltimore. I saw where Governor Moore was asking me to take a walk down the street of Baltimore. Well, Baltimore is a very unsafe place. It's rated number 4 in the city, one of the most unsafe places anywhere in the world. But, you know, we took care. This was a beautiful thing that happened in Washington because we showed that it could be done. And this wasn't just sending big, strong guys, and they are big and they are strong. You know, we had a great decision from the Supreme Court that had to do with sort of talent. It had to do with you are put down based on merit. You can hire based on merit. So merit for a soldier or for a policeman is strong, physically fit, having a certain ability, not a person that is woke and got the job through woke, but wasn't strong enough to lift a gun out of the holster, et cetera, et cetera. No, I looked at the police. As you know, last week I went over, we had a meeting there had to be 300 people, and they were all very impressive looking. And when the bad guys see them, they're not going to do a thing. And so I'm very proud of Washington. It serves as a template, and we're going to do it elsewhere. But Chicago is certainly going to be high. I would love to have him call. I would love the governor of Illinois. I'd be honored to take his call. All he has to do is say, sir, we need help. It's out of control. And everyone knows it is. He's not kidding anyone. I would love to have, I would say, Governor Moore call, because I watched him over the weekend trying to explain that Baltimore, what they need is housing. No, they don't need housing. They need to get rid of the criminals. These are hardcore criminals. You know, we took many people off the streets of Washington, D.C. They're hardcore. They're not going to be good. In 10 years, in 20 years, in 2 years, they're going to be criminals. They were born to be criminals, frankly. They were born to be criminals, and they're tough and mean, and they'll cut your throat, and they won't even think about it the next day. They won't even remember that they did it. And we're not going to have those people. Washington, D.C. is now a safe zone. It's a safe place, and you can walk, Katie, you can walk right down the street with, by the way, one of the biggest human beings I've ever seen, which is her husband. He was a football player for like 11 years in the NFL. He's a big person. But big doesn't mean anything when they have guns and when they have knives and everything else that they have, right? But you can walk right down the street, even by yourself, and you're totally safe. Washington, D.C. is a great thing. Yes, ma'am, please.
Mr. President, as you're calling on Democratic leaders across the country to work with you on crime, do you see your efforts here in D.C., including, for example, working with Mayor Bowser here as a model for bringing more bipartisanship in matters not only with crime, but also issues that matter to everyday American people's lives?
So Mayor Bowser's been great. She could have taken the thing, oh, well, and then after I clean it up, they'll take credit for it. You know what they do is they take credit. Like, we cleaned up Los Angeles. We did a great job there. And it was overwhelming what was going on. And again, the police chief made a statement that we could not have done, there's no way they could handle it. You saw what was happening out there. It was going to be a disaster. We stopped it cold. If we didn't do that, would have been a very sad day. And, you know, remember, we have the Olympics, we have the World Cup, we have all these things coming, and we have 250, all of these things coming. But I watched Newsom get up and say he's doing a great, he's not, we're the ones that did it, and that's okay, whatever it takes. But the main thing is but he got up and said, we did it. Well, he didn't want us there, and he's going to need us again because it's starting to form again. I see it. It's starting to form again. You know, we have to maintain. It's like maintenance on an airplane. You can buy it, but you have to maintain it. And if you don't maintain it, a good plane becomes very unsafe very quickly. So it's an honor to do it. A lot of presidents wouldn't do what I'm doing. I don't need this heat. But when I watched television last night and I'm watching the news and I see that 9 people were killed in Chicago and 54 were badly wounded with bullets, I say, that's not this country. We have to do something. And I do say this, I say this very much. I'm not speaking to anybody but them right now. I would love to receive calls from governors and mayors saying they need help. We'll help them. We have a lot of people. We have a great force. We have a great military force. You know, Pete will tell you that when I was running for office, and this was a big headline, I think, you know, probably got me a couple of votes, but you couldn't sign people in the military. Nobody wanted to join the military, the Army, Air Force, the Navy, Marines, Space Force, Coast Guard. We never forget Coast Guard because they've done such a great job. Never. But nobody wanted to join any of them. We were way below what we wanted. Every single one. The closest was the Marines, whatever that is. You'll explain that to me. But the closest was the Marines. But every service was way down, way down. And then I got elected, and our country's the hottest country anywhere in the world right now. Everybody's talking about the USA. They're talking about the job that we're doing. Everybody. We have the best economy. We have a very, very important decision being made by the Supreme Court because our country is the richest, the strongest, the most powerful. But if for some reason some liberal court, I'm talking about the court that just ruled, where even an Obama judge voted in favor of us, which I gave him a compliment yesterday, as you know. I said that took great courage. But it's a liberal court, and it's going up to the Supreme Court, who I think have been incredible people. I think they've made very wise decisions. But the tariff question, because without the tariffs, this country is in serious, serious trouble. We've taken in almost $17 trillion of investment is coming in. Most of it is coming because of tariffs. And if for some reason somebody wanted to be politically correct, I actually think it's unpolitically correct. I think politically correct is to approve it, because there's nothing so popular as what's happened to our country. Our country is doing so well. But we had a liberal court gave us a very shocking ruling, and that ruling is basically saying that the trillions of dollars that are pouring into our country, putting us in a position like no country is anywhere in the world, that they'd like to see us that taken away. By the way, a lot of the people behind that lawsuit, that particular, are from foreign countries, I might add.
There's a video that is circulating online now of the White House where a window is open to the residents upstairs and somebody is throwing a big bag out the window. Have you seen this?
No, that's probably AI generated.
So
Actually, you can't open the windows. You know why? They're all heavily armored and bulletproof.
So that's a fake video?
Well, it's got to be, because I know every window up there. The last place I'd be doing it is that, because there's cameras all over the place, right, including yours. No, but every window, I've never seen a window that's, in fact, my wife was complaining about it the other day. She said, love to have a little fresh air come in, but you can't. They're bulletproof. And number one, they're sealed. And number two, each window weighs about 600 pounds. You have to be pretty strong to open them up. No, that has to be, where was the window? Let me see.
Maybe from the renovations.
Which is the window?
It looks like this is on the 15th Street side, I think. Yeah. So right here.
Yeah, those windows are sealed. Those windows are they're all sealed. You can't open them.
What you were saying regarding the federal.
It's the kind of thing they do. And one of the problems we have with AI, it's both good and bad. If something happens really bad, just blame AI. But also they create things, you know. It works both ways. If something happens that's really bad, maybe I'll have to just blame AI. But there's truth to it, because I see so many phony things. I saw something as I was growing up, from the time I was a baby till now. I said, who did that? It was AI generated. So it's a little bit scary, to be honest with you. But those windows are all very heavily sealed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to follow up with what you were saying regarding that federal appellate court that ruled against you and your administration as it relates to your ability.
Well, they ruled against our country, the court, and they ruled against us before. It's a very liberal court.
You called it highly partisan in your
Well, it
social
certainly
media
is. It certainly
and
is.
in fact, it was along ideological lines, 7-4.
Well, except that we actually got one of the Obama judges that was appointed by President Obama voted in favor of the tariffs, because he felt it was imperative for our country to thrive and survive even. And I gave him credit. I said, you know what? That took a lot of courage for him to do it, because you don't see that often.
So my question is, I suspect you're going to appeal that all the way to the Supreme Court.
Well, we already have, yeah. In fact, we're doing something else. We're going to be going to the Supreme Court, we think, tomorrow, because we need an early decision. I mean, look, the financial fabric of our country, we're a rich, incredible country right now. And we're able to, you know, other countries use tariffs on us for years, and we never did. I did a lot during my first term, but then we had COVID and we had to focus on other things. You couldn't be tariffing Italy, Spain, France, as they were dying by the thousands and millions. But we did with China, and China paid us billions and billions of dollars. And I started the process, but then I had to end it a little bit because of COVID. We focused on that. But no, it's a very important decision, and frankly, if they make the wrong decision, it will be a devastation for our country. We've taken in trillions of dollars, and by the way, all these countries signed agreements. As an example, they're all happy, everybody's happy, but some whack job put in a lawsuit, It went before a very liberal court, and the liberal court ruled, it was 11, they ruled 7-4, with one of the most liberal of them all voting in our favor because they're patriots. I think I give tremendous credit to that judge. And now it's going to the Supreme Court. Now we're going to be asking for early admittance. We're going tomorrow, and we're going to ask for an expedited ruling because, when you look at the stock market's down today, the stock market's down because of that. Because the stock market needs the tariffs. They want the tariffs. If you look at AI, all of those, all of that money that's going to be invested, trillions and trillions of dollars, the biggest thing, bigger than the internet, I suspect. It's the internet plus 3 or 4 other things combined. We are leading very substantially with AI. We're leading because of tariffs. We're leading because of talent, and this is where they'd like to be. But without the tariffs, we wouldn't have a chance because we wouldn't be able to protect those investments of the companies coming in. So if you took away tariffs, we could end up being a third world country. That's how big the ruling. So we're asking for an expedited ruling.
As a backstop to that, President, you have a Republican-controlled Congress. You control the House. You control the Senate.
Yeah, but we don't have 60 votes. We don't have 60 votes. I'd love to do that. Oh, if we had 60 senators, if we got the 60 votes, we would get them. But we need 60 votes, and we need, a certain number in the House. I think we'd get, I don't know, we have about 5 of them here. Would everybody agree with me on tariffs? Without tariffs, we're a different country. We have taken in so much money. And here's the thing. We signed a deal with Japan. They're paying us hundreds of billions of dollars. We signed a deal with South Korea. We signed a deal with the European Union. We signed a deal with Europe. And those countries are paying us $950 billion. And they're happy about it. They're okay. As one of them said, it's amazing that we got away with it so long. One of my friends, a leader of one of the countries, and they're fine with it. They all signed. If that ruling ever went against us, I guess we'd have to give back hundreds of billions. We would have to give trillions and trillions of dollars back to countries that have been ripping us off for the last 35 years. And I can't imagine it happening. On a legal basis, they have no legal basis whatsoever. But on a common sense basis, it would destroy America. Okay.
We talked about controlling the sky. On Sunday, the satellite signal of Ursula von der Leyen's plane was alleged.
With Ursula? Well, she had an interesting event. She's a tremendous woman. And so what are you asking me about her?
NATO is concerned about the attitude about this.
NATO is concerned about it. Well, nobody knows where it came from, but they did take away her ability to use a phone. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that could happen to me. I'd be very happy.
Mr. President, reducing the tariffs on India from 50%.
What does that mean?
Are you considering taking away some of the tariffs that you've imposed on India?
No, we get along with India very well. But India has, you have to understand, for many years it was a one-sided relationship. Only now since I came along, and because of the power that we have with tariffs, India was charging us tremendous tariffs, about the highest in the world. They were about the highest in the world, number one. And we, therefore, weren't doing much business with India, but they were doing business with us because we weren't charging them. Foolishly, we weren't charging them. So they would send in massive, everything they made, they'd send it in, pour it into our country. Therefore, it wouldn't be made here, which is a negative. But we would not send in anything because they were charging us 100% tariffs. And, I'll give you an example, Harley-Davidson. Harley-Davidson couldn't sell into India. There was a 200% tariff on a motorcycle. So what happens? Harley-Davidson went to India and built a motorcycle plant. And now they don't have to pay tariffs. Same thing as us. So what we're doing is literally thousands of companies are coming into the U.S., car companies, AI, but, more traditionally car companies. We have so many car company factories under construction or being designed right now. And they're coming from China, they're coming from Mexico, I must tell you, and they're coming from Canada, a lot of them coming from Canada. But they're coming into our country because they want to build here. And they want to build here for 2 reasons. Number one, they'd like to be here. And number 2, the tariffs are protecting them. And number 3, they want to avoid paying tariffs. When they build their cars here, they don't have any tariffs to pay. You know, when you build here, you don't have any tariffs.
Mr. President,
Go ahead,
in
please.
light of the Minnesota shooting last week, the Department of Homeland Security is now awarding more than $100 million to hundreds of faith organizations across the country to help them ramp up security. What's your vision for further protecting religious liberty across the country amid incidents of threats and
So
violence?
religious liberty is so important, and we're talking about every religion now, and we're doing things on that nobody else has ever done, and we're going to be having a big announcement in about 2 weeks on that question. Yeah, please.
On Space Command, sir, are you concerned that people may not be willing to relocate from Colorado to Alabama?
No, I'm not worried. We'll get somebody else. I mean, the problem with Colorado is they have a very corrupt voting system. Look, I have so many friends in Colorado. Anytime you have mail-in voting, you have corrupt elections. Very simple. It's very simple. Even Jimmy Carter said it with his commission. They set up a commission with him and Scoop Jackson and some people, highly regarded people. And they said the finding was, if you have mail-in voting, you will have corrupt elections. Well, your radical left governor decided that he was going to have all mail-in voting in Colorado. Once you have all mail-in voting, and for whatever reason, the Democrats cheat. And they cheat like, they're not stupid. That's the only thing. They're no good on policy. They're no good on management. They're no good at government. But they're great at cheating. And they stick together, too. I give them credit for sticking together. Please.
Obviously, this is a big win for national security, moving this to Alabama. We've all can agree with that.
Big.
Is there any idea of the economic impact this has on the state and on that local area?
Katie, do you want to answer that?
Look, I mean, go ahead.
Please go.
This is going to be tremendous. I mean, the state of Alabama, what we've seen through this process is the worst of Washington. We've seen politics get in the way of what is best for the warfighter, what's best for national security. And the state of Alabama is about to show the country the best among us. So we know the economic impact is going to be tremendous. There at Redstone Arsenal, we're proud to house everything from the FBI to headquarters there for material command to a number of things. We obviously have NASA with Marshall Space Flight Center, and so this naturally fits within. When you look at the decision matrix that they placed in front of us, that's why we ranked so high, is because we have the resources necessary and the ability to build out quickly to meet the needs in front of us. As far as economic impact, it would be tremendous. Does anybody have an exact number? 1,600 jobs.
3,000 spinoff.
With 3,000 spinoff. Look at this. This is teamwork right here. So we are really proud, and the people of Alabama are ready to get to work.
And I've got a housing question, if you could, just for a second, Mr.
Yeah,
President.
please.
Owning a home and going about the American dream seems like it's out of touch for a lot of Americans. Just recently, you pushed out a statement about addressing an emergency housing situation.
That's right. We're thinking about doing that.
Yeah, can you just...
Well, we need a little help from the Fed. We have a man named Jerome Too Late Powell. You probably heard of him. He's too late. He's way too late. And the economy is so strong that it's pushing through that. Normally, it would have been much tougher. But we're doing so well that we're pushing through it. But it makes it very hard for people to get mortgages because too late is too late. Very simple. He's too late. And probably political, whatever. He wasn't too late before the election. Before the election, he was cutting rates, right? Because he was hoping that, I guess, Biden would get in or that Kamala would. He was a big Biden guy. Explain that one. And then he was a Kamala person. But he was hoping, I guess, she'd win, I guess. I don't know. It didn't work out too well. But, yeah, we need a very serious cut. You know, I think that if you look back many decades ago, the United States was always the lowest, even if they were doing badly. The United States was, because without the United States, everything in the world would die. It's true. It's so powerful. It's so big. And I made it really big in the first 4 years. Then it started to degenerate with what this Biden administration did. But we built it up to a level that I never thought we could be at this quickly. We're the hottest, we're the best financially. The money coming in is so big because of tariffs and other things, but because of tariffs. Tariff gets us even those other things. Plus, it gets us great negotiators. I settled 7 wars, and numerous of those wars were because of trade. And numerous of the trade deals that I made were because of tariffs. It gives you a great negotiating ability. If that ability were taken away from us by a liberal court acting on essentially foreign nations asking to get help from the United States government, when they've been doing this to us for 40 years, that's why we have $38 trillion in debt. We won't have it for long if they let us, if they allow us to do what everybody knows we should be able to do. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, another Biden-era action that you're now reversing is that you signed a deal last week to make federal buildings adopt and embrace classical architecture styles again. Can you talk to us about why you do that, and also what's your vision?
Well, we want to see beautiful buildings. Now, you know, it's in the eye of the beholder. I've seen architectural reviews over the years. I'm an expert at it. I've gotten a lot of great reviews. But I've seen buildings that I didn't think were very good get great reviews, and I've seen great buildings get bad reviews. So, but it's just a standard. We want to have a good standard. We're building something here. You know, for 150 years, they wanted a ballroom at the White House. We're doing something at the highest level, using great architects and all. And, you know, it's very exciting. But we have a lot of interesting things happening architecturally in D.C. And D.C. is like a different place. And, you know, even the contractor said, sir, we walked down today, we feel like much safer. It's like a different place. Washington, D.C. is great. Now, we're going to also beautify it. We're going to put a topping on the roads. We're not going to rip them apart and take 4 years to build a road that was exactly the same by the time you build it. But we're going to put toppings. We're going to put new medians in. We're going to get the graffiti off. We're going to put tiles up in the tunnels where the tiles are missing. We'll do the whole tunnel instead of, you know, a little area where you see new tiles, old tiles that never look too good, but they could use it. You know, they've been up for 50 years. They've served their duty. But we're going to make this within about a 20-mile radius from the White House. We're going to have this place spick and span. It's going to be crime-free, and it's going to be spick and span. It's going to be, you'll be proud of Washington again. Go ahead, please.
Sir, China's having a massive military parade that President Putin and Kim Jong-un will be attending. Do you interpret that as a challenge to this? And are you concerned at all about those countries trying to be some sort of counterweight?
Not at all. China needs us, and I have a very good relationship with President Xi, as you know, but China needs us much more than we need them. No, I don't see that at all, no. And I had actually a very good meeting with President Putin a couple of weeks ago. We'll see if anything comes out of it. If it doesn't, we'll take a different stance.
Everyone March today in California ruled that your deployment of National Guard troops to Los Angeles was illegal. Do you have any response?
Well, it was a radical left judge. But very importantly, what did you not tell me in that question or statement that you made? Pretty much of a statement, I think.
Well, I was asking for your response.
No, you didn't say what the judge said, though. The judge said, but you can leave the 300 people that you already have in place. They can continue to be in place. That's all we need. But why didn't you put that as part of your statement? Because the same judge ruled exactly as you said, except the judge said that you could leave the 300 people that you already have in place. They can stay, they can remain, they can do what they have to do. Thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, press. Thank you. Thank you. Let's head out. Let's go, guys. Thank you. Thank you, press.
Well, congratulations to the heart of Dixie, the Cotton State, the Yellowhammer State, Alabama, to have that rocket center right in Huntsville, a home to space exploration for a long time, and a major announcement on this day with the Alabama delegation, including Senator Tommy Tuberville, the coach, longtime coach of Auburn University, and the Tigers, and Katie Britt, the United States Senators, and congressmen on hand for that announcement. And then, of course, the press conference to follow, which President Trump, the most accessible president in the modern era, on a whole host of different topics, and then that mail-in balloting coming back into the discussion, safety in big cities like Chicago, saying he just wants that phone call from Governor J.B. Pritzker or Mayor Brandon Johnson to work together, and definitely is the one who is keeping that door open. As I saw now that the governor putting out actually a website to help those illegals who might be deported as well. So it's an amazing back and forth to watch. I'm sure it's going to be touching on the national issues over the course of the next several weeks and months, as we're all here for it. I also like that President Trump did talk about Jimmy Carter's commission, because when President Carter ran all the way back for the state Senate in Georgia, back when it was Senate District 14, that still exists today, just on the northern end of the state, he actually challenged his initial election through that process and found that there was a corrupt system, a corrupt count, and then won that state Senate seat. Perhaps if that did not happen, there would have been no Governor Carter, then President Carter. Then he worked in his retirement to make sure there are free and fair elections around the world. So I guess when it's only a double standard when Republicans request that issue when it comes to mail-in balloting. But I'll let you decide at home. And thank you for watching today. A lot of great coverage regarding today's news, President Trump's announcement on this great new Center for Space Exploration and Defense, and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, Vice President J.D. Vance, also there with the Alabama delegation. They're live in the Oval Office and then taking some very poignant and good questions from our press colleagues in Washington, D.C. Thank you to our sponsors that supported us today on this Tuesday, September 2nd, now unofficially into the fall season. And if you like what you see here at RSBN's live desk and our coverage throughout the week, when it comes to original content and following inside and outside of the Beltway, support us right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, rsbnetwork.com/donate. You can text RSBN to 801-801. Also, the old school way, we have an address, 1550, that's 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Once again, 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, the loveliest village in the Plains, 36830. If you'd like to send in a check, rsbnetwork.com/donate or text RSBN once again to 801-801. We also have a newsletter where you can like, share, and subscribe, a Sunday devotional, as well as great deep dives into the issues affecting you and your neck of the woods. Get all America First updates and exclusive offers at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. And thank you for watching today, a beautiful day in Washington, D.C. Not too shabby of a day right here in the loveliest village in the Plains, Auburn, Alabama. And a big day for the Yellowhammer State, the Cotton State, the heart of Dixie, Huntsville, Alabama, home once again to space exploration, and President Trump giving again out that fair apparatus to choose and select what's great for Space Strategic Command, as was stated by Secretary Hegseth. Whoever controls the skies controls modern warfare. And yet again, this president, another reason why the Nobel Peace Prize should be coming his way. But stick with us all week for breaking news and exclusive content right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. For all of my wonderful colleagues here at RSBN, have a lovely afternoon. God bless you. We'll see you soon.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First news. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Tired of being told no by your doctor, your pharmacy, or worse, your insurance company? You're not alone. Millions of Americans are waking up to a broken healthcare system. That's why more and more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy. We believe in medical freedom. We deliver the prescription and the medication, all from licensed U.S. doctors and pharmacists, from ivermectin and trusted antibiotics to maintenance medications, even NAD+. the revolutionary anti-aging supplement. Use code RSBN10 at checkout for 10% off your first order.